Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We're going to just jump right into questions. So I want to get through these as quickly as I can. So, Mr. Red says, if Trump wins, do you think that news would end up being censored by him and his administration? Do I think they would attempt to? Yeah. Do I think they would succeed at it? A little bit trickier. That's obviously the dream and the goal. But the odds of actually succeeding at that? Wait, which add-on, Master? So, just realized I need to do this. There we go. There we go. I am a spider now, apparently. It was so distracting that I didn't know what was happening. Hey, everyone. Hey, everyone. Look at me. Behold. Hello. Okay. Yeah, no, I do. It's one of those weird things. I don't want to be sound alarmist, because again, duh. But at the same time, I do think there is some very real dangers here. Put simply, do I think things will get worse? Yeah. Do I think things will get that much worse? Probably not. And Lord knows the entire world has been getting stricter about immigration laws lately, so that's just kind of its own fun thing. Zolok says, is it okay to curtail a few freedoms for universal health care, such as better drinking water regulation, not having to pay for healthcare costs, or stricter limits on chemicals in food, or are there rules for having your healthcare system not get overruled that you get to reject outright? So, I almost don't understand this question. It sounds like what's being asked is, am I willing to compromise on having lower safety regulations in order to have better health care? But I feel like those are kind of dovetailed. If we have lower safety regulations, then the healthcare is going to get worse. So I feel like I'm not actually understanding the question. I hope you get all the groceries you need, Savicom. And some good lunch. Make sure to get some good lunch, too. Alright, so I'm just going to walk over that question right now. That's from Zalok, if he wants to repeat that. Not that he'll be back, I'm sure. Cordoon says, if you had to make a game, the event, like Yume Nikki did, what game would I make? Probably something extremely dark, if I'm just going to be really, really honest about that. It would be a game I would never release. I would never let anyone else play it. It would be extraordinarily unpleasant and hopeless, and the entire theme and point of the game would be nothing but non-stop despondency and despair, coupled with occasional bright spots which are then crushed by future despairs. And that'd probably be my venting game there. It is hard to be optimistic sometimes. Let's see. Kenix Cow says, do I think Magic the Gathering is an idiot? Because I do. I assume you mean Wizards of the Coast, in which case, yeah. Wizards of the Coast, they've been dumb for a while. It's not really anything new. But Hasbro has been even dumber, which is also nothing new. A lot of, type exclamation mark, polemic for the full thing. Oh, it's not there. Hang on. Because I switched. There we go. Type that. That'll get you the command. There we go. Anyways. What was I saying? Remember, if you don't actually put exclamation Q, then it won't go into the queue. And I can't get it. That's the end of that. So, words. There's been an increasing trend of a lot of large-scale companies, which probably need to be smaller-scale companies, to be worse and worse and dumber and dumber. And yeah, Hasbro has never exactly been a great company, but they have absolutely and objectively, I hate to use that word, let's call it demonstrably, been getting much, 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 much worse. Along with basically every other large-scale company. It's really just kind of a trend. So, do I think they're stupid? Yeah. They be dumb, yo. Blue Hero says, have you considered building an Outer Wilds woodpunk ship out of Lego? No, but only because Lego is super expensive. There's all kinds of things I would rather build with Lego if I somehow had the opportunity to do so. Judah Durker says, in regards to Republican Party moderating versus extremism, candidates that have doubled down on Trump, some names, have been crushed, but also moderates like Liz Cheney have also been ousted. Do the rules apply to Trump as well? We'll see. That doesn't feel like a question. So, I don't know. I don't see a question there. I feel like I've been lied to. Why would you lie to me, Judo Joker? Is this all the Judo Joker block is consistent of? Is lies and slander. Fake news and sheeple. Alright, SRPSS? Surplus, maybe? I'm not sure how to say that. Asks, have you voted and who have you voted for? Now, I actually want to answer that because, first of all, I already have answered that very thoroughly. But second of all, why do people care? I know that sounds like a strange statement. It's kind of like asking, you know, what religion you are. I've actually talked about this before. Why is that a relevant factor? Like, why does that matter? Now, if it's just for idle curiosity, or because you're wondering, or because you just want to compare and contrast, or whatever, that's fine. I'm just honestly curious of the mentality that goes behind such questions. No judgment. I'm just wondering. Let's see. Next question is from Sean. Payment processors like PayPal and MasterCard seem to be denying services to not safe for work artists and voice actors. Is this illegal, and if it's not, should it be? The legality of those kind of things is unfortunately really gray. So the answer to is it illegal is, that's probably for a lawyer to decide. Do I think it should be illegal? Yeah. No, I do think that kind of thing should be illegal. The moment that we allow the people who operate and function as one of the underpinnings of the economy to just kind of arbitrarily decide to allow for funding or non-funding of something based solely on whether or not it's pornographic, that's a lie. Don't mistake me, there are some times in which freezing someone's assets is a very good and proper thing to do. Because they happen to make porn is not something I think qualifies under that category. These so we can scooch down. Rax asks, have I seen... Oh, hang on. There it is. Have I seen Joel Osment's parody of J.D. Vance's Donut Shop publicity stunt? No, I haven't. I now have something new to Google, because that sounds hilarious. Let's see here. Judo Joker, a lot of Judo Jokers here today, asks, thoughts on moderate Republicans endorsing Kamala and or opposing Trump? I've actually kind of already given my thoughts on that. I don't have anything whoa, new to add to that. Okay, thank you, Rex. It's a thing. People are just hedging their bets. I mentioned this, Savicom mentioned this in brief earlier. I don't think she even realized what she was saying. Because one of the ideals, and I do stress ideals, of the Empire in the extant is that people are not inherently selfish and or scum. In other words, it's more of a positively inclined fiction rather than a negatively inclined fiction. Kind of like Star Trek is supposed to be, for example. So, the idea here being that if... No, you need to put exclamation mark Q, Mortal. Exclamation mark Q. And then your question. Polemic gives you the command, which you just saw. Let's assume for a moment that Mr. Red over there is very pro-hot dog. But he's interested in making sure he continues to have his cushy job because he has a reason to do so. And so he actually agrees to go ahead and side with... who else is in chat? Valerian. Now, Valerian, he can't stand hot dogs, and he is actually lobbying to get rid of hot dogs as fast and as hard as he possibly can. Mr. Red will still side with him, not because he believes in him or his cause or agrees with his policies or concepts or anything else like that, solely because of the fact that he wants to make sure that he keeps his job, and Valerian, well, he's got a lot of people who listen to him. So he's got to toe that line. And you start to see the problem immediately. I know what you're saying. There's no solution for this, and you're probably correct. The reason I bring all of this up is because the answer to the question, what do I think on people switching sides, is that probably shouldn't happen because it probably shouldn't exist, but there's no real way to stop it, so that sucks. And that's my thoughts on that. people probably don't actually think they're anti-Trump. They're probably not anti-Trump is what I'm trying to say that. They're just going whichever way they think the winds are blowing because they're interested in one thing and one thing alone, and that is where their next paycheck is coming from. Off the Deeper End says, I have personally given up entirely on politics, but I think one should not be a doomer and still choose the lesser evil. As I said before, I've actually already answered this, but as I've said before, I fully understand the despair and despondency that it feels like to exist in the world that is this planet. It makes perfect sense. It's very, very personally understandable. You get it, right? So it is very, very easy to understand that mentality, and I don't blame you for it. However, I am also a student of history, and if there's one thing universally shown that history has shown many, many, many times, is that even though things suck and might not get better, the only way we can ensure is that they don't get worse is we continue to keep trying, even if it is choosing a lesser of 2 evils, or 3 evils, or 50 evils, or whatever. Things can and will get worse if we do not have that vigilance, if we do not have that oversight that I was just referencing earlier. So, I suppose that's my honest answer to you. Judo Joker says, give your best devil's advocate for the Electoral College. No problem. Remember, Von Falkenstein, you have to type !Q. All you did was prompt the question bot to tell you what the thing is. Yeah, if we all... To be as... I mean, I get why Off the Deeper End calls that dooming, or being a doomer. Because, honestly, if we just accept that things are bad and never getting better, then why are we still here? Now, I'm not saying that to be, despairing. I'm not saying that to say everyone should kill themselves. I'm actually arguing against that. If we legitimately thought that everything was so terrible and will never get better, then none of us should exist. The fact that we do and have these little tiny, insignificant, but relevant things in our everyday lives is, in my opinion, a bit of proof that things are not that terrible and things can be better, if not for us, at the very least for the next generation, or the next, or the next. God dang it. Well, since I'll be standing here for a second. This. Best devil's advocate for the Electoral College. So, back in the day, the Electoral College made a degree of sense. It was there because communication used to be slow. And so, actually, the whole process of elections across such a large gap of territory was essentially unfeasible. And many of the points and purposes of the original Electoral College was to try and solve that problem. Thing is, obviously that isn't and hasn't been true for years, but that's the best defense I could ever possibly give to the Electoral College. It's nice for people who don't have things like cell phones. We do. So... that's my best get. Magitech Electricity says, question, in my opinion, what are Ukraine's chances of either recapturing or negotiating the return of the Crimean Peninsula back to Kiev's control? I have absolutely no idea. And I hate to give such a cop-out answer, but any predictions I already have given about that particular nonsense conflict have already been proven wrong. At this point, I have no idea what's going on and why it's still going on in the manner that it is. I am more confused than anything else. Judo Joker says, thoughts on third-party voters in swings, especially in swing states. So here's reality, okay? If you vote for a third party, your vote is going out the window. It's actually kind of worse than that, because any vote for a third party is effectively dragging votes away from a party that might have otherwise gotten your vote. So, to explain that a little bit, let's say that you are a little left-leaning, but only a little bit, right? So you think Kamela is a little bit too much. And I don't blame you. She is a little bit too much. But you're thinking, okay, so, cool. We'll go ahead and vote for a third-party candidate who's more in line with what you actually personally think of. Congratulations. You have just voted for Trump. Now, that's not a joke. That's not a shame. That's not a buzzword. That's not anything else. That is a statement of fact. Any person, if you are already engaged enough to vote, and you've already committed to voting, and you already have a preference chart in your head, literally or metaphorically, of who you would vote for, and you decide to vote for a third-party person, then you have robbed the person you would have voted for in a ranked choice system of their vote, and therefore, mathematically, voted for the other person. Does that make sense? So, that's especially true in swing states because your vote has, mathematically speaking, more weight, more power behind it than anyone else's. Now, the harsh reality here is that should that happen? No. That's stupid. But that is the reality we live in. We are in a two-party system. Any vote for a third party is effectively throwing your vote away. Yeah, that's the weird thing, Bonnie Punk. If somehow a huge number of people were to actually vote in a given way, it would be like, oh, that's cool, and we'd be good. That is never what happens. That boils back down to the one issue voting thing I've talked about before. But there's actually another reason that tends to happen. My mother votes Republican, universally, 100%. She just votes red down the line. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why? Well, because her mother voted red down the line. Why? Well, because her mother voted red down the line. Well, why? Well, because her mother was a bunch of rum runners during the Prohibition, and they got in bed with the Republican Party as part of that whole thing. That's it. I've actually followed that chain all the way back as far as it goes. There are plenty of people who vote for specific parties, not individuals. People who are voting for the Republican Party for the presidency and not Trump because that's what their parents voted for. Oh, hey, Pax. I'll wait at the next stop for Pax. Which is... where is this? There we go. This spot. I've lost my train of thought. Pax killed me. But they vote for red instead of voting for Trump, right? Or they vote for blue instead of voting for Kamala. I know people who weren't even aware of the fact that Kamala replaced Biden and didn't care because they were just voting blue, because that's what you do. You just vote party lines. And yeah, this is one of the reasons why it irritates me so much, because this isn't a goddamn sport. This is something much more serious and boring, and something that should be taken in a much more serious and boring manner. And yeah, I'm not even getting into the idea that a lot of people tend to stare at this thing like it's part of who they are, right? I've given theories on this matter before. We all have trouble with our identity, right? All of us do. All of us, 100%. And we all have things that we like and things that we don't. And paxes that we like and paxes that we don't. And so identifying who we are is something that's kind of, it's a thing, right? It's something we all have trouble with. So some people, we grasp things. We latch onto things and say, this is me. And that becomes a part of your identity, right? Sometimes it's a sports team. Sometimes it's a franchise, like Star Wars or Star Trek or Sonic or Final Fantasy. Sometimes it's your skin color. Sometimes it's your religion. Sometimes it's where you live. I am a such and such, either city or county, or in some cases state or country. You default to something. You default to something and say, this is me. I am a Republican. I am a Democrat. I am a liberal. Whatever. Doesn't matter. And so some people will vote that way because that's who they are. The reason I'm bringing up all of this is because we have a two-party system, more or less mandated. But also, even if we didn't, there's a decent chance most people would still vote for one of the two big parties because of sports mentality, because of generational voting, because of identity voting, because of one-issue voting. And then, of course, plenty of people wouldn't vote at all. I knew it, Margaret Thatcher. No, there's an evil woman for you. I hope that answers your question, Judo Joker. Next question. How badly do I think the destruction of the New Republic in Episode 7 impacts the story potential for the New Republic era? And how would you write the era knowing this is what it all leads up to? So first, I think that was a terrible goddamned idea. I think it was awful and horrible in every way. I think it was a crude, bog standard, garbage, bullet point way to try and emulate the impact of the destruction of Alderaan. And it's so J.J. Abrams. I know he's not the only person who is involved in this kind of thing, but it is very, very much Abrams, because he is really good at presentation and has no idea how to present meat. His ideas, his stories, his concepts, the things he pushes are all really, really surface level nonsense, but very, very, very well executed, very well presented. That's Abrams. That's him in a nutshell. So, if you remember that scene, the scene itself is actually wonderfully horrifying. Like, really legitimately terrifying. It is ominous and awful, and the music is appropriate, and the visuals are good, and it's a great scene to really demonstrate just how horrifying the moment is. And it has no impact, because it's stupid on every level. I'm not even get into the fact that people on a completely unrelated planet in a completely unrelated system can actually physically look up into the sky and see it happening, which is its own level of nonsense. Let's just ignore that for a second. No, it has no consequences, no impact, and they don't even follow through on it at any level. It's just something they did to be big and flashy. So that absolutely damages the reality of that and its impact. And if I was writing the New Republic era leading up to that, I would probably quit, because what's the goddamn point? Yeah, no, it's Hosnian Prime. How many of you, before you looked it up, knew what Hosnian Prime was? Don't lie to me. It's none of you. All right, next question. Crazy Norse says, how do you feel about cosplayers? Please give separate comments on people who do it because they love a franchise and professional cosplayers. Okay. So, they're scum! We need to kill them! They're gonna eat your dogs! They're gonna eat your cats! So I know plenty of people who are just for fun cosplayers, including people I am personally friends with. And I also think that oh, there's Bax. I need to switch mounts again, so we're gonna do that. Yeah, I know, right? A seller. So yeah, no, it's ridiculous. But I do words. So I'm fine with cosplaying. I would probably do more of it myself if I wasn't so ugly and horrible. Where's the Pax? Where are you, Foo? Oh, there you are. Well, he's dead. You tried, but you failed. Ha 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 ha. Ah! Oh, I can't reach you. Hang on, I gotta go mock Pax really quick. Hang on. Where's your corpse? There it is. Okay, hang on. Real quick. So let's set Pax on fire. There we go. And chop him up. There we go. All right, this is Pax right here. This fine cut of meat here that is currently being cooked. And then I'll res him. Anyways. It should be green fire. I'm a frickin' demon hunter. All right, whatever. He was trying to corpse bomb me. Where's the Dan? There it is. I've lost my train of thought. What the hell was I saying? Cosplayers, right. So, I'm not actually particularly pro or against cosplayer. I like that it exists. I like that people do it. It's fun. It's interesting. It's a nice way to just dress up and have fun creatively. Fashion, a lot of people tend to forget that fashion is another creative outlet, just like drawing or writing or singing or whatever. So, yeah, no, there's actually some really cool stuff that can come out of cosplaying. Professional cosplayers are more interesting. I'm really happy for them, the fact that they actually have the ability to do that and make money off and make a living wage off it, because it's functionally just another creative outlet. They're an artist at that point and can go to events and do their own thing and blah, 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 and that's cool. I have seen, when I used to go to Gen Con, I used to see some absolutely crazy cosplayers there. The one that I'll always remember the most, actually since Pax is here, I'm going to go do this real quick. The one I'll always remember the most is a gentleman who was dressed as a Warhammer 40k Space Marine. No, I don't remember which chapter, don't ask me. And you're probably thinking, but no. This guy had, like, essentially stilts, because the boots pushed him up like a solid foot. And he had the full suit, and it was, like, fully made of ceramic or something like that. Or possibly, I can't remember what it's called, but the stuff. Like, he had trouble moving, is what I'm trying to say. But it was really on point. And the dude was really just, holy crap. It was very impressive. I'm sorry for speaking so vaguely. What's the percentage? 82. We can do that.
Watch your step.
Yeah, no, exactly, Mortal. Like, I kind of envy the ability to push that kind of passion out there. Oh my god, lethargy. Lethargy, it's a dragon. It's a dragon. You're gonna die. That's too polemic, Electric Shrimp. That's too much. Anyways, I hope that answers you, Crazy North, because I don't know what else to say about that. Why is he tilted? Juno Joker says, is the executive veto of Hogwarts... That's not what you said. You said Howard's. Hogwarts Legacy a personal stance against J.K. Rowling's transphobia, or just to avoid the potential backlash? The former. Honestly, I don't want to deal with that nonsense, and I am particularly against transphobes who are as openly, ridiculously transphobic as J.K. Rowling is. I also understand fully and completely that my refusal to buy her game will have absolutely no negative detriments on her whatsoever. But, as the saying goes, that's a hill. That's a chocolate for me. Hills and chocolate. So, she can go to hell.
Watch your step.
Not playing it. Moving on. Pax is dead, as it should be. Pax has died twice this stream. Who keeps freaking spinning her? Oh, we don't have a tank, that's why. Why don't we have a... Why don't we have a tank? She's at 6%. God damn it. Oh my god. Hey! Mission complete. Did Pax already get that? I guess I'll find out in a minute. Alright, cool. Next. Little Billy asks, would I eat apples if offered by a kindly lady in the wood? No! 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 Okay, next. Jay Palmer says, do I think the electoral college will ever be abolished? It really should be, but reality land, no. Just... Like, I mean, honestly, we've talked about this before. The reality of what it would be required constitutionally for the electoral college to be adjusted is for essentially every single state to ratify a new amendment. And getting all of the states to agree with that and this political climate, that's probably not happening in my lifetime. So we're stuck with a terrible broken system. Unless we get to a point in which it is so wildly radically broken that it requires a fixing. And even that is not a guarantee. That's a huge gamble. That's the I'm going to break my leg in hopes that I'll get to see the doctor kind of an approach. See you around, Valerian. Have a good one, man. Experiment says, favorite emulators for each console. So I prefer FCUX for NES. I prefer SNES 9X for the SNES. I use, hang on, let's see here. I use Melon DS for the DS, MGBA for the GBA, Same Boy for the Game Boy, Citra for the 3DS, MU Hawk for miscellaneous, Dolphin for the Wii, Duck Station for PS1, PSX2 for the PS2, PPSSPP for the PSP, and that's it. That's the full list. Where am I? Oh, God. Getting distracted. That's what I'm doing. Let's see here. Next question. Red apples? Oh, apples or oranges. I already answered that one. I do like both. Oh, God, I don't know. It depends on my mood. What do you think? Apples or oranges? Now, here's the thing. I'm thinking in a vacuum. You know, apple pie is nice, but orange cake? Whoa. In fact, orange cheesecake. Oh, yeah. I think I'm going to go orange. Donald Trump can't take oranges from me. All right. I was once accused of that, by the way. Fun fact. In one of my random videos, this was years ago, years and years ago, back during the first election, I was accused, because I made a random comparison between bananas and apples, and I was just intending to go with random fruits that have nothing to do with anything. And people are like, oh, he's clearly referring to Trump because of oranges. And I'm just like, what? Actually, you think that's funny. There's a video going live next Monday, which is going to sound like it's a political video. It's actually not. You won't believe me. Nobody will believe me on that, but it is true. I recorded it months and months ago. Like, God, in like February or something like that. What's it about? I'll go ahead and tell you. It's about Senator Armstrong. I just had this random flash of wanting to talk about him as a character, because I think Senator Armstrong is a great character. And I just wanted to talk that out and really discuss the whys and the wherefores of why he's such a fascinating character. For those of you not aware, one of Senator Armstrong's things he says during his speech is he quotes Reagan. Not Trump. In fact, he predates Trump usurping that phrase, and he says, I want to make America great again, which was a phrase that Reagan used. Now, we all know my opinion of Reagan, but the point there being that I did feature that quote strongly because it's so central to the identity of Armstrong and the kind of person that he is. And I guarantee you, people are going to look at them and be like, it's a Trump thing, and it's like... Anyways. So, in regards to Israel-Palestine, should they go for a two-state solution or try to integrate together? I am once again going to give the same answer I already have to this type of question, which is, I have no idea. I am sufficiently ignorant to not actually know how that should work or could work. I legitimately, oh, no kidding, I legitimately do not know. Right? Like, I am unashamed of admitting that I simply have too little information to actually even give an opinion on that matter. Whoops. So, I don't know. Whatever they're doing hasn't been working, but, you know. There it is. By the way, since y'all like to complain about how loud the music is, what's the music volume like for you here? I'm asking because I kind of want to set the music volume essentially now, so that in the future I can just leave it at this for when we finally do stream this. Awesome. Okay. So, next question. Hey, we've just reached 146 in the queue. Jesus Christ. We're only about 2 hours behind. DZ Maven says, what game series would like to see a new entry in that hasn't had entry for several years now? Mega Man. I could name a few others. We had a similar question earlier, but I'm sorry, Mega Man. Where the hell are my freaking Mega Man games? Judo Joker asks, why is Polemic Day on Halloween? Total coincidence, but I've kind of already answered that question. One day we were streaming random horror games, like Half-Life 2 and Assassin's Creed and all that, and I don't remember exactly what ended up happening, but what it boiled down to was someone brought up what at the time was what I would consider a polemic question. And I decided, more or less just off the cuff, to go ahead and answer it honestly instead of just deferring and not answering it like I normally do. So I answered it honestly, and then someone else was like, oh, well, he answered that question, so he might answer my question. So they asked a question. And it sort of just kind of developed from there, you know? So it was never really intentional. It just kind of became a thing. And I will admit, with the advantage of hindsight, it is actually probably appropriate to have Polemic Day on the most horrifying day of the year, when the veil is thinnest. But I would be lying if I said that was deliberate. Okay, this one. Ooh, little lag spike there. Let's see here. Blue Hero asked, do you have enough shirts to wear a different one on each day, or do you have to wash them? I have enough shirts to wear 2. That is to say, 1 across 2 days. I actually have quite a few. My wardrobe looks so boring. It's a bunch of white shirts and black shirts. But I do have multiple copies of each of my shirts, because of course I freaking do. Experiment says, what are your thoughts on porn and OnlyFans? Is it too far? Okay. I'm going to be honest and say I don't actually understand that question. Is porn too far? Yes! Yes, porn has gone too far! I don't understand the question. I'm sorry. I will say this. I do think that having a safe and well-infrastructured environment in which for people to be able to produce pornography in, a safe and contained environment so that they're cool, no risks of abuse or misuse or drugs or grossness or STDs or anything else, just, their own particular recognizance, is something that I am 100% in favor of. Past that, I will also say, as weirdly as this probably sounds, the idea of bespoke pornography is a relatively more recent one, and one that has a lot of potential dangers, which is why those kind of sites need to have several protections in place in order to protect the identities and safeties of the people who are producing on it. Oh yeah, that's another thing. We absolutely need to have more independence on the pornography industry, pretty much in the exact same way as every other industry in the world. The more you get larger and larger corporations involved, the worse things get for the people on the ground. So, yeah, having more porn in the hands of the porn stars, aka the workers, is something that I am absolutely in favor of just in general. Let's see. What are my thoughts on Bill Bradley as a candidate? Who's Bill Bradley? What do I think about the Alex Jones trial? So I'll be honest, I know that Alex Jones' life is self-destructing, and I'm going to be extremely honest about that. I'm very happy about that fact. Screw him and screw his stupid face. However, in the interest of total honesty and fairness, I have not followed his trial. So I have not actually looked at the court documents. I have not looked at the progression of events. I do not know how fair and just his trial actually was. So I cannot actually speak to that with any level of severity because I don't know. You're going to hear me say that a lot on Polemic Day. What do you think about this? But seriously, screw Alex Jones. Bella Calic asks, what do you think of the argument that Elon Musk is not evil due to his action... Hang on. Due to his actions in pushing forward industry, space exploration, and clean energy. Now, that is actually a surprisingly interesting concept. So here's the deal about that. Yes. Sorry, I shouldn't answer that question in advance. I shouldn't let anyone queue jump. Sorry. Let's do it this way. Ignore that giant sword in the background. Everyone else does. So the Elon Musk thing is kind of a weird situation because he's scum. Let me start by saying that, along with most billionaires. But he's also someone who likes to push things that would be beneficial for other people because it makes him look good and feeds into his ego. Then he hires people who actually have brains underneath him who then push those. Now, the argument can and has been made that Elon Musk gets credit for that because he's the one who funds it. I'm going to be honest and say that I don't agree with that mentality. I'd have to go to the past for this one. But it is a mentality, it is an argument that I've heard several people say that because Elon Musk writes the checks, he gets credit for a lot of the stuff that the talented people under him actually do in order to try and progress things towards actually dragging humanity further in technology. The thing about that is obviously I don't agree with that personally, but even if I did... Yeah, I didn't think so. Okay, even if I did agree with that concept and he actually gets credit for that, he is still an absolutely garbage human being. And so the argument that he's not evil, what do you mean by this, is that he's a better person for that, is something that doesn't really hold any weight for me. It's like saying if Hitler... I know this is... I hate using Hitler like this. I'll use the most evil person I know. If Rax was to spontaneously go out and start petting puppies right before he goes and starts shooting homeless people for sport, does that make Rax a better person? No. This is not... I actually talk about this in fiction a lot, believe it or not, because this topic comes up all the time in fiction. Where we think villains are okay because they do something good or they have some redeeming factor. No, they're still villains. They're still monsters in some cases. They just happen to have also done some good things on the side. That doesn't make them a better person, right? Yeah, Pastor Muppets. One thing I found funny, real quick anecdote, and then I'll get back to the questions. There was reach out to try and get people's opinions on several topics, and they tried to reach out to as many Republican people as they could Democrats to try and get ideas from both sides of the aisle, right? Most of the topics that they asked people about, people agreed on. One of those, this is what reminded me of it, was, do you think billionaires, need to be taxed more and or have some of their wealth redistributed? And the answer was pretty much universally yes. The reason I'm bringing this up is there's a fairly common, it's true, there's a fairly common tendency amongst people in general to think that billionaires are the enemy, as opposed to the reds or the blues, which I can get behind that. Anyways, remember, motivational quote of the day, remember, no matter what you feel bad about yourself, this is not a joke, by the way, I'm not making this up. No matter how bad you feel about yourself, or how much you feel like a leech on society, no matter how much you feel like you are a drain on the world around you, remember that you will never be as much of a goddamned tick as rich people always are and always have been on society. All right, so next quote. Spartan says, do humans have rights? No, only cats have rights. Equalitas says, do you know about Olaf Palme, apparently a prime minister in Sweden, I guess, who got assassinated? And the answer would be a big no. I hadn't even heard about that. Here, cats are all our masters. Someone in chat told me the reason people believe in climate change is because every scientist in the world is part of a global socialist conspiracy to force Americans into a death cult. That's nonsense. Moving on. Yes. Listen, I'm not a herald of Anubis. Ignore the statues. Ignore everything. We're fine. We're fine. Do you think that Project 2025, specifically the aims to destroy the bureaucracy and replace it with puppets, is logistically possible? I'm worried by the plan, but can there be enough cronies and political power to force it through? So realistically speaking, no. As I've already talked about, well, Project 2025 absolutely scares me, and it does. I want to be very clear about that. The fact of the matter is, actually implementing that would be a tremendous nightmare. Into the pod! Eat the bugs! So, I don't think that that's likely to happen full tilt. What worries me most is the possibility of it happening at least partially, or laying stepping stones for future people to try and implement it in future, and blah, 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 blah. It's a back and forth thing, right? Let me be very clear about something. I firmly and absolutely believe in the concept that there should be apolitical government. And I know that sounds like a strange statement. You're probably thinking, that's not possible. And if you're thinking that, then you're already wrong, because we have an apolitical government. The overwhelming majority of people who operate in government, who keep things running on a day-to-day basis, who make sure that your roads are paved, and that your traffic lights keep operating, that your electrical grid is functioning, that your water is still provided for, and that all of the many things that make sure that there's money going to schools, and that bank loans are still being put out at the right percentages. All that crap is being done by people who are not appointees or are not a part of any given political party, but instead are just people who are just there to do their freaking job. That does not apply universally. Of course it doesn't, because it's stupid. But yeah, those are actual civil servants. There are a lot of them. They outnumber the actual politicians by a wide margin. And so one of the biggest things that Project 2025 threatens to do that worries me the most is that, trying to get rid of that system. Yeah, sanitation is another big one. Trash just disposal, that's a big thing. And trying to get rid of that, that's insanity. Trying to actually make political appointees in charge of everyday life, that's terrible, right? That's the kind of thing that worries me. But at the same time, that's the kind of thing that probably would fall apart very, very quickly if it was actually to happen. Ugh. Do I think that... Oh, I already answered that question. Can I please mount, game? I've been tricked! I've been turned into a cat. I'm now one of the rulers of this world. Alright, come on, Pax. There you go. Yeah, exactly, Reggie. Sean asks, are Western game developers purposely making female characters unattractive? Not ugly per se, just plain looking. I don't think so. I've never seen anything like that. But then again, there could be some of that problem when it comes to that. In other words, people who are worried or afraid of trying to be seen as the wrong thing by the wrong people. So I don't know would be the answer to that. I haven't seen anything about that personally. So I don't have anything to add to that. The Vatican apparently has an anime mascot. One moment, please. That's the first spam call I've gotten that actually left a voicemail to try and get me to go vote. Yes, Shadow Machine. Oh, that's the Eastern Kingdoms. Thank you, Magister. Yeah, let's hit, let's do Northrend next. Let's go over this way. Speaking of Putin, says Magitek Electricity, thoughts on 8,000 people from the Korean People's Army fighting in Ukraine. Huh? No, I am aware of it. Sorry. But I actually kind of already talked about this earlier. But for real. Huh? I really do. What? I really don't even begin to understand what the hell anybody was thinking about that one. I've already gotten this one? Let's see one. Yeah, there's a few. It's a pittance of people too, of North Koreans. I have also heard, big asterisk, have not confirmed this information, that some of them are already immediately running. You know, going AWOL, because they're outside of Korea now. Yeah. But the harsh truth is, I don't actually know specifics about that. All I know is just, huh? So let's see. There we go. What's my opinion on trying to get more and more franchising in Formula One? Not a huge fan of that. Pax is trying to distract me here. Not a big fan of that. The Formula One is already a very, very money-locked sport. And I know most sports get money-locked at some point or another. And then usually there's some kind of whiplash, and then there's kind of a reset. And I think Formula One is probably due for a good reset about now. They have been getting a little bit money-hungry for a long time. I mean, you saw the McLaren years, right? Anyways, thoughts on the glass ceiling debate. What's the debate? That glass should not exist. What is glass but tortured sand? There you go. That's my answer to that. Is Citizens United v. FEC the worst ruling the U.S. Supreme Court has ever made? Yes. Bonapunk asks, how would you solve the systemic problem of the U.S. destroying its settlements with car-centric infrastructure, suburban sprawl, and lack of zoning options? So I've actually thought about that a lot, because municipalities and civic infrastructure is something of a thing I'm a geek of, right? It's an interest, because I'm a very boring person, and I'm not sure there is a solution. Like, the real answer there is probably decades of very slowly shifting things away, and of course, obviously trying to curtail the way things are right now, like stop approving new zones and new built housing developments under the current system. Dred Scott was pretty bad. The problem, for those of you not aware, Citizens United v. FEC. Let me explain in two different points why it's so tremendously terrible. Okay? So we'll start with the more alarmist thing, and then we'll go with the boring thing second. How's that sound? So, the alarmist thing, start it, is that it effectively creates the powers of a king. It allows for the capacity for a political official to be above and beyond the law, someone who cannot be brought to accountable to said law. That I probably shouldn't have to explain how terrifying of a concept that is, regardless of who the president is at that particular moment in time. Like that feels like a duh. I just got another text. Jesus Christ. What the? So that's awful. But the second thing, which is arguably just as important, is the fact that it's the type of ruling that shouldn't exist in a legal framework on that scale or at that level. Let me explain what I mean by that. Let us assume for a moment that I allow myself the right, under the provisos of this show, call this show the federal level, to be able to ban someone if they spoil something, or if they decide to post spam links, you know, bot kind of stuff in chat, and things like that. I have made a clear, distinct ruling based on previous existing circumstances to allow me to have the powers legally that I need invested in me in order to accomplish my job. Make sense? Now let's say that I give myself the authority to ban someone in chat. Do you see the distinction between these two things? Because the biggest problem, in my opinion, with Citizens United v. FEC is that it is so deliberately broad and ill-defined in its operation that it can be applied in so many different circumstances that it's actually kind of bonkers to even consider. And again, it's not a Trump thing, it's an office of the president thing, which doesn't care who happens to be in that office at any given point in time. That's the kind of thing that shouldn't be on the books. Period. My opinion. That's why I list that as just absolutely terrible, because what in the world? I just got another text. Oh my god. Now, in reality land, if any given standing president decides to go ahead and try to execute that, there's a non-zero chance that that will be contested in the courts. Here's the double catch on that. When that gets contested is going to then become a problem. Because, random example, let's say it gets contested now. The Supreme Court that made that opinion currently is the one standing in the Supreme Court. How do you think that's going to go? It's the same thing I was talking about earlier. Just because Bragwin has never stabbed me doesn't mean I probably shouldn't have a rule in the books to say that she shouldn't stab me, you know? Yeah, what happens if we have a complete flip, by the way, when it comes to the Supreme Court? Because that has happened. There are multiple potential appointees happening over the next 4 years. It's actually one of the biggest reasons why several people are concerned about this particular presidential election, is because we have Supreme Court appointees possibly coming up in this range. So that's even more potential control and lasting impact on the government and on the country as a whole. How do you think they would vote on that particular matter? Okay. There we go. Anyways, moving on. So, I'm sorry, Bionic Punk, I sort of flipped back to the previous question, but I hope in answer to your question I can say that I think what probably needs to happen is a very slow but careful adjustment of how we do housing, how we do traffic, how we do infrastructure in order to try and further emphasize not completely burying our country in an environment that does not contribute or support people who can't stay at that level of existence. I should probably note that there's other potential solutions for that, not the least of which being actually making sure, making sure that people are able to make a living wage. Why am I literally Hitler? Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Bladeval says, "How bad do I think?" Bladeval says, "How bad do you think the Supreme Court's presidential immunity ruling was?" Feel like I just talked about this. Yes, I am Skeletor. Because I like Mass Effect 2. Let's go with this one. Alright, so Bionic Punk asks, what do you think about the absolute cesspool surrounding Dragon Age Veilguard discussions? It seems like, for lack of a better term, tourists are complaining about a franchise they know nothing about and actively wish the franchise and studio to die in a fire to satiate their biases. So, I'm going to be honest, I've never heard of any of that, but I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, just that I've been staying very, very, very far away from the entire Dragon Age 4 thing because I want to walk in blind when we finally do stream it. So, I don't know. In a vacuum and with no information, I will say this. The concept of tourist complainers, which I've heard about several times before, is not a new one. It's actually a very, very common thing where people just jump in and be like, I've never heard of such and such before, and I've never watched such and such before, but I got opinions about it. That's the tourist thing, right? And so they pop in and they say, oh, there's such and such, and I'm going to be mad about this because I think it goes against something I believe in, or maybe it actually does go against something I believe in, and that's a thing. And yeah, the problem with that is that's always been a problem. But it's even more of a problem now because people have financial incentive to do that because that gets them clicks, which gets them ad revenue, which gets them money. Gotta get that money. Gotta get that paper. Yeah, exactly, Dakota. I have literally seen this happen with regards to Tolkien. Please think about that for 5 seconds. Yeah, it's nothing new. Moving on. Ganas says, what do you think of it? Hang on. Why do you think it was the rally jokes of all things that provoked the massive backlash and none of the other Trump campaign statements? So there's actually an answer to that. It's kind of a broad answer, so bear with me for a second. So, no spoiler. I don't want to hear it, Shadow Machine. I don't want to hear it. I'm trying to use a specific example. Okay. If Savacom's here, this is going to work out great. If she's not, then I'm wasting my time. I think I overshot it. Yeah, I overshot it. There we go. I'm just trying to make Pax puke. That's what I'm after. Okay, Savacom's here. Okay. Tell me about Xena. Not you specifically, Savacom, but like go ahead and tell me about the Xena franchise, setting, show, whatever you want to call that. Now, oh, hi, Spartan. Oh, I'm going to take a moment to say thank you to Duralis. Thank you, Duralis. I'll jot that down for ESO, Elder Scrolls 6, The Age of Empires block. So here's the deal. The reason I use that is I can use a lot of examples of this. The reason I use that as a specific example is because anybody who is sufficiently familiar with it will know that that's a little bit of a rabbit hole to go down, right? It's something that you could summarize, but if you do, you're going to lose all of the substance of the actual work in question, which applies to most things. Make sense? So nobody wants that, right? Nobody wants to actually dive into something or actually deal with something that's complicated or involved or involves time or money or, worst of all, effort. We don't like the F word here. So instead what they do is they go for something that's bite-sized. They go for something that's a sound bite. Something you could put on a bumper sticker is actually a common, legitimate philosophy when it comes to trying to get people to sway to your side. If you can fit the entirety of your political campaign or your identity with regards to a specific fandom on a bumper sticker, you're good to go. You know why? Because that bumper sticker is memorable. It's easy, it's quick, boom, done. Make sense? So, why is it people are getting all fussed up about this rally? Well, because it's really, really, really easy to point to it and say, wow, am I right? It takes almost nothing to do. Anybody can glance at that and be like, oh, wow. And it's bumper stickerable, right? It's the kind of thing that can be quickly turned into an advert. I've already mentioned several times that I'm not a huge fan of Kamala Harris. Let me go ahead and say that I'm really not a fan of her campaign. That is to say, the people who actually run her campaign. Because I'm really sick and tired of seeing her using the exact same tactics I have blasted for years in order to try and get people to vote for her. Now, I get why she does that. It's because the system sucks, but you get the overall point. Right? Like, I cannot tell you how frustrated I am that the overwhelming majority of Kamala ads I've seen are, we're going to lower your taxes. And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. No, no. No. Hey, Sonashi, I hope you're enjoying. Yeah, no, she's playing to win, and I get it, and I understand that, and that is what's required, and I understand that too. It doesn't make me any more... It doesn't make it any better. It just makes it another unacceptable thing, right? In a sea of unacceptable things. So that's coming from Sonashi, which is going towards Dragon Age 4, Gothic 1, and Witcher 3. There we go. Yeah, exactly, Savacom. It's just... it's frustrating. In a video game, we can tell what people are actually... We can make informed choices because info in-game exists in video games. Good video games, anyways. And that's another thing that irritates me. Just while I'm here, what really pisses me off is that... Oh, I know, Zyandred, I love Northrend visually. Of course, I love WoW in general visually. What the hell do I know? Hey, look, there's my Citadel over there. There's this thing where... losing my train of thought. I really hate it when you're voting against someone, not for someone. I really, really hate it when someone is campaigning entirely on the I'm not the other person platform. Which, if you're paying attention, both current presidents are running on that platform. A lot of the overt marketing, the marketing that gets to everyone, like the quick YouTube ads or the pamphlets that show up in your mailbox, has been that, right? The other person's going to ruin everything. It's negative. It's negative reinforcement. It's negative motivation, whatever that's actually called. It's the other side sucks, so vote for me. It's like, okay. Yeah, what are we voting for? But if you vote for the other person... And I should mention that I do personally think that voting for Trump is the kind of thing that will be damaging to our democracy as a whole. I do actually think that. But, can you give me a reason to vote for you, please? Is that a thing we can have? No? Okay. Getting off topic. Yeah, I'm less horrible. Okay. What are you going to do about issues I actually care about? Well, what are those? Because I'll go with whatever you think. I'm not going to tell you what I think. I want you to tell me what you're going to do. Oh. I don't have anything against my opponent, but I stand for everything that they don't stand for. Your 1.2% tax change doesn't go far enough. All right, sorry. I'm getting way off topic and I need to answer all these questions. Rhea Girl asks, any comments on Europa Universalis 5? I hope it's good, and I hope it buries EU4. It won't, but that'd be cool. That's the best part, Late Jamal. I'm happy people got that reference. Nixon's back. Okay, so Experiment asks, what do you usually like in your burgers and sandwich? Lettuce, tomatoes, pickles, onions. And a pinch, I'll also go for mustard, but not that crappy yellow mustard. Ugh. No, I want real mustard. Like, I want actually good mustard. I want Fantastico mustard. Oh, yes, yes. Give me that real mustard. Oh, I can taste it right now. I've actually got some dill mustard right now I just picked up. I haven't had a chance to try it yet. I'm really hoping to get a chance to try that out soon. Anyways, let's see. Oh, also meat. That's the other thing I need on my sandwiches is meat. Yeah, force my nostrils open. Let me feel it. Oh, yeah. That's mustard right there. Do I consider burgers sandwiches? Yes! Are hot dogs tacos? Yes! And I just lost half the vote. Judo Joker says, personal feelings aside, how do I feel about Kamala versus Hillary? Yeah, if you forced me to vote for one or the other, I would vote for Kamala. Hillary, some of you probably don't even remember this. I was asked my opinion on Hillary back when she was running. And I gave the opinion that she was a snake. And just, yeah, I don't know what else to add to that, honestly. She might be a more effective politician, that's true. But, it's the Balin thing all over again. Damn you, Lord Harrimont! Okay. Well, you didn't put that in a question, Q Pancakes, but the answer is because it's already funded. Let's see here. Kenix Cow says, I'm one of those weird people who likes pineapple on pizza, but I also like garlic and pepperoni. What are your favorites? So I like meat. I feel like I've said that like 3 times today. But I really, really like meat and jalapenos, or anything spicy, really, on my pizza. So my pretty much default pizza toppings are pepperoni and jalapenos. Having said that, if I have access to really good pizza, a really good taco pizza is fantastico. But also rib meat pizza, which is very rare to come by, at least where I live. That is the good stuff. Holy crap. That's something I could be absolutely in favor of. But that's kind of a more of a rare treasure treat thing. As opposed to something I see on a more regular basis. Let's see. Scroll down. Why do famous people tend to be so opinionated online to the point where it's actively affecting their employment? Pax says hi. So the answer to that is one of 2 things. 1, ego. And honestly, that says all it really needs to. The other answer is that a lot of people like to farm engagement. And negativity is, by a wide margin, the easiest way to farm engagement. I've spoken negatively about Asmongold several times. One of the things he does that pisses me off the most personally is that he will absolutely say deliberately provocative things in very negative lights and just trash people, and then farm the people who respond to him. Like, Cara Jarino has effectively increased her overall career potential by virtue of everything that she did. And she probably knew that walking in, you know? There's also the hidden benefit of picking a side, which is always seen as brave when you pick a side in something. And so that kind of adds to the overall thing in general. Yet Asmongold's getting canceled. No, he's really not. 30-day ban on Twitch. Yeah, what we call that a slap on the wrist. Anyways, Kitten Fan says, do you think Autism Speaks has done anything good? What is Autism Speaks? I've never heard of that. Charity organization. I've never heard of them. So, I have no idea. I really haven't. I have not heard of them, I'm sorry. So, as usual, in the absence of information, I cannot say anything. That's... Damn it, Pax. No! I don't want it! I don't want it! Stop giving it to me. Okay. There it is. That should have been the last one. What are we missing? This doesn't matter. We're just roaming. We're not actually doing... Oh, it's in the underbelly. Okay, that makes sense. They want to abort the autism gene. If they could find it. Anyways, we're going to pretend we never read that. Let's see here. Bionic Punk says, do you think voting rights should also have a hard cutoff point? So, I wish Bionic Fan was here to clarify on that. Or Bionic Punk, excuse me. Because I don't actually know what you mean by that. If I mean, should everyone have a vote, the answer is no, of course not. My 3-year-old niece should probably not have a say in government. But it gets a little bit trickier the further into that you get. We've actually talked about this before. Yeah, age limiting is obviously a thing. There's also the possibility of doing tests. To qualify this, for example, you have to take a test to drive, you have to take a test to become a citizen, and you do not have to take a test to vote. All you have to do is hit a certain age and be born from the right vagina. Which is kind of a weird thought when you think about it, but it's still true. Oh, okay, gotcha. So people over a certain age shouldn't vote. I get you. So once again, we're back to that same idea of before. You know, should people... should we go with the approach of people who are too old and just apply the Band-Aid solution over everything to prevent them from, you know, causing problems? Or should we go ahead and... instead try to have some kind of approach to say, hey, you know, this is your competency test, this is your cognition test, to prove that you're still capable of making informed decisions and therefore still have the right to vote. Now, admittedly, yeah, taking rights away from people is a thing. However, if I'm going to be 100% honest with you, I do think we probably should have some kind of, there it is, cutoff point for voting. It's probably never going to happen, though. And that's fine. It's not the end of the world. Is that everything? Looks like everything. Alright, Pandaria. Like, to use a very specific example, my great-great-grandfather, excuse me, my great-great-grandmother, is someone who still was capable of voting and still did participate in votes. She had dementia. Now, I'm not saying we need to necessarily have a hard cutoff point based on age or anything like that, but I'm just saying that if we allow someone who has dementia to vote, why? Like, feel free to explain that one to me. Here we go. Anyways. Again, maybe like the driver's test thing. I mean, it's not like it's particularly difficult to keep your driver's license right now either. Have fun, Evo. Oh, I lost packs. Oh, we're on different layers. Okay. Well, okay. I suppose that's a best of worst. Jesus, I don't know how I try to combine those words. Situation there, because there's only 3 possibilities when you think about it, right? So first of all, we have an age limit, which is going to unfairly punish some people, but prevent other people who arguably shouldn't vote from voting. So we get a little bit of good in exchange for some obvious bad. Or we could have a competency test, which is going to run into obvious problems because that then makes that a government-run operation, which could then fall victim to the very kind of thing that I've been talking about all day. Or we can go ahead and just let everyone vote regardless of anything forever, in which case we will have people who, let's be honest, should not vote, but people who should be allowed to vote are still allowed to vote. So, pick your poison on that one. I'm going to go admit I have no particular opinion on that, thinking about it from that direction. Flip a coin, doesn't matter. Ect says, is the bot dead? No, but thank you for asking. Electric Shrimp says, should I save my precious girlfriend Mary Jane or suffer the little children? You choose, Spider-Man. Save the girl. Nobody cares about the kids. Mortal asks, how do you feel about the policy where if a police officer kills someone who is later proved unarmed to be fired? Okay. It is making the job stricter, but also sometimes you need to presume the worst and shoot someone aggravated when they are reaching for something, even if it's later proven to not be a weapon and would lead to unjust firings. It'll be used politically to reset the board so I can't read the rest of that sentence. Hang on. Hang on. There we go. I missed it. Okay, so it could be used politically to fire specific cops, but is that a good enough cost compared to limiting when the police feel like they should shoot someone? So this goes back into a kind of a choose your poison sort of a situation. There's a lot of choose your poisons in politics, isn't there? Which particular poison would you like to ingest? Can I ingest no poison? No. Okay, I want to not ingest poison. That's tough. So which poison would you like? Okay. Here's my opinion. I actually agree that we should probably have a demilitarization of police in general. Now, hang on. In the interest of honesty and fairness, I should admit I have a very deep personal bias against police officers. I'm going to be very clear about that. So that is that. I'm going to go ahead and sit that down there. However, I'm also going to say that from a purely mathematical perspective, which is probably one of the most neutral ways I could possibly answer such a question, if a cop has to die to prevent several civilians from not dying, done. Law enforcement is there as people who have volunteered for their job to serve their community and do what they can. If they end up shooting a civilian who did nothing wrong, then what they did is they just sought a civilian who did nothing wrong. That is not an acceptable circumstance. My opinion. So, in short, yeah, I think that we should absolutely have cops be more hesitant to draw a gun and shoot somebody, even if they do believe, legitimately and in the moment, that it's in self-defense, because they signed up for this kind of crap. They should be honored for it. They should be respected for it. They should not be feared for it. Well, yeah, that's its own other thing, so I mean, you know me in court. Anyways, that's another thing. Cops tend to have. Whoop! I missed. Coming. I lost him. I know. It's okay. You want to hear something really bonkers? When I was having issues getting a job, like 10 years ago or something like that, one of the things I was looking into was becoming a cop, because the requirements for becoming a cop were so low that I could have qualified. I should mention the other jobs I was looking into was being a stalker at Walmart and being a mail sorter at Amazon. Or not a mail sorter, a warehouse sorter. Or a cop. Anyways. Yep, I stalk Walmart. I stalk the aisles at late at night. Anyways, yes, as in someone who stalks the shelves, for those of you who didn't catch that. Where's my questions? Here we go. Hexy says, if Trump wins, how do you think NASA will react if he basically sold them out to Elon Musk and had NASA fold into SpaceX? How do I think NASA would react? Probably mass walkouts. Either that or a bunch of people who don't care as long as their paycheck is filled. One of the two. I don't really know NASA all that much. I don't know a lot of NASA engineers. Sorry, one. I know I'm just such a brain genius. That's to know all the people at NASA by heart and by name. Yep, I'm going to get those shelves a restraining order. They've gone too far. Let's see here. Who's on first? No, what's on second? Sub-Zero says, if someone would prefer, oh, Jesus Christ, hang on, I'm trying to read this. If someone would prefer Trump and votes third party, it would be a vote for Harris. Yes, actually. That still applies regardless of the direction. The whole point of third party, it's called the spoiler effect, and that's a very, very common thing. The spoiler effect is all about how third-party votes in a two-party dominated system, not just in the United States, not just in the modern era. If you vote for the third party, if you vote for one of the non-two dominant parties, then what you have done is effectively voted for the party you would otherwise have not voted for if you were not given that choice. That's the spoiler effect. It bleeds votes away from one candidate or the other. So yes, would be the answer to your question. Yeah, Nader pretty much ensured that Bush got the election that one year. I actually don't remember which year that was, but it was a thing. Here we go. Let's see here. That was 2000. Yeah, that tracks. Is that what I mean? Yeah. Hypothetically, says Trihexia, what would happen if by chance the independents managed to actually win an election? You know, there's this concept. It's called what if, like historical what if stuff. It's cool stuff, and it's wild to think about, but most of them are nonsense. I don't really necessarily mean that in a bad thing, but like Command and Conquer, especially Red Alert, is a good example of nonsense alternative history. None of those things could have ever happened on any level in real life. It's not even remotely feasible. That's not the point of the story. The point of the story is to have fun with the what if. The reason I'm bringing this up is because a third-party candidate actually winning the presidency of the United States is so unlikely and so near impossible to happen that it's something that I'm not even sure I could speculate on from a serious perspective, only from a silly perspective, like Command and Conquer. Yeah, if a third party wins, something has gone very wrong somewhere. Now, maybe that'll be something that works out in the long run. I have no idea, but that's just the kind of thing that I can't even possibly think about. Yeah, I was going to say, Ross Perot is, if I'm not mistaken, one of our highest-ranking third-party candidates ever, and he got nowhere. That's yeah. Let's see. Ross says, do I think voting should be made compulsory? Let's add some provisos to that, because I think that's too simple of a statement by itself. Let's first of all state that it's essentially a national holiday that is more than one day, right? Probably do a rotating thing. We already have this kind of thing in several aspects. Banks comes to mind immediately. So have 3 or 5 or 7 days during which you can vote. Have resources and stuff in place to ensure that people get legally, get time off in order to be able to vote and are not penalized. They don't lose out on time or they don't lose out on money in order to have to go and vote. Make sure that they have rides, make sure they have public transport or actual people who are willing to give them rides. There's some kind of way to ensure that voting is not a hassle that we have to force ourselves into. Speaking personally, some of you actually probably know this, I used to live Georgia. And back when I used to live in Georgia, there was this really, really frustrating thing that used to piss me off. And it was finding where the voting places were and then finding time to actually go and vote. And that was immensely frustrating to go through because there was a lot of misinformation about that. and a lot of frustration about where exactly the places were and when they would be open on what days, because not every voting place was actually open on a given particular day. Some places wouldn't even answer the phones. Some places would be open and polling places, but, you know, good luck actually telling, because if you drive by on the street, it looks like they're closed because all the stuff is in the back. You get it. That kind of stuff, that's barrier to entry stuff, right? That stuff needs to not be there for something as fundamental as voting. I've talked about this so many times. We need information and we need availability. If we have somehow solved all the other problems first, we make voting more accessible, we make voting more informative, we make it so that people are not penalized for voting. Under those provisos, yes, at that point I would absolutely say that voting should be compulsory. It should be the kind of thing that people are either rewarded for doing or penalized for not. Probably rewarded for doing. That feels more appropriate to me personally. And yeah, end statement, I suppose. I don't have anything else to add to that. Like maybe just this is completely off the top of my head, but maybe something like if you successfully vote, because there's actually a lot of things that track whether or not you have voted or not. That there's federal registries and everything. So like, for example, let's say you do successfully vote, you can then take that receipt showing that you have voted to your employer and say, hey, and they can then give you paid time off rather than just time off for having done it, right? Something like that. Something like that to encourage people to actually bother. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to get people who are going to vote meaninglessly just because they want that extra paid time off. And frankly, I would rather that than they not vote at all. To be honest with you. Now, that's just opinion. I have no real way to defend that. But I think that's my answer to you. Sorry for the long delay on that, Ross. Look at how many costumes I have on. Oh my god. For those of you who are actually watching the stream, I'm currently a ninja white ghoul, ninja bat, gargoyle, abomination, skeleton, ghost, geist, Nerubian pirate. Bionic Punk says, what do you think about furries? So, let me ask a weird question. Why is there an anti-furry bias? Like, I know that sounds kind of weird. Might not be here. Ignore the fire. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, it's not here. Let's scooch over here. Like, we are cool with people who like feet. Why are we not cool with people who like anthropomorphic animals? Assuming that's what furries is. Is it in here somewhere? I have nothing else to add to that because I don't really see the issue, to be quite honest with you. Safe, sane, consensual is not just a slogan. It's something that I am, like, I legitimately believe in as a concept. Is that downstairs? It is downstairs. Nope, that's not it. Where the hell? How do you find a foot sexy? That's just weird. No judgment, but that is weird. It says it's here. It even says it's the shrine. Oh, whatever. Moving on. The foot thing is such a common thing, too. It's weird. Anyways, that's my opinion on furries. What's the issue? Moving on. Like, we have so many fetishes that are so much weirder and grosser than I happen to like dressing up as a squirrel. Hate that song. Hate that song. Okay, Electric Shrimp asks the most polemic question I've gotten today. Am I for or against continuity? Chat, what are we feeling? If Uthor was here, I know where he'd vote. this one either. Oh, no, it's right there. That's funny. There's a bunch of dead people here. For the other people who haven't done these quests yet. There it is. That's funny. There we go. Let's see here. What do I think about Johnny Be Good being the last possible piece of music that outlasts humanity because it's on Voyager 1 Pro? Well, that's sort of sad, but, you know, it's better than the alternative, right? Imagine if it was Baby Shark. Just imagine. Aliens find Voyager 1, and they start hearing Baby Shark on loop. What do you think would happen next? In Japanese. No! Alright, am I a boobs man or an ass man? I like hips and faces. I'm going to be quite honest about that. But if you forced me to pick between the two, I'd probably go at the front rather than the back. Let's see here. Chapter 3 and 4 of Deltarune is 100% coming out in 2025. According to Toby, are you excited? No, because it means I'm going to have to work even harder. Where the hell did packs go? Okay. Even harder in order to avoid spoilers. For like however many additional years. Like, I've already been struggling to stay away from spoilers, and I already know about a certain character so much that I've already made a remix of his music. Yes, really. Don't make me play it. It'd be very loud. Another text. You should go vote. All right. This way. Bionic says, do I think we're up for another economic crisis along the lines of 2008 financial crisis? Dude, we've been in the middle of an economic crisis along the lines of 2008. I'm not even saying that facetiously. We are smack dab in the middle of one, and have been for months, if not a year. Let's see. Who's my favorite clone from Clone Wars? God, I don't know. There's a lot of good ones. I'm kind of leaning towards Rex, but that feels like the cheap answer, you know? Heavy's good? I don't know. Fives is good. There's so many good clones. If there's one good thing, like, I know a lot of people don't really care for the Clone Wars, but if there's one thing that really nailed the Clone Wars, it's the fact that they really fleshed out a lot of awesome characters, all of whom happen to be clones. I think I still might actually go for Rex, though. Where do I get my news about events? Yes! I try not to lean on any given individual source, because that's a failing solution, and is going to fall apart almost immediately. So, that's my overall thought on that. Am I secretly Mormon? Yes! Which form of media do I prefer most? Movies, novels, or video games? So we know the answer to that. So, which do I prefer more, movies or novels? I think I'm too much of a cinema geek to not answer films on that one. I love a good film, especially a really well-crafted film. And don't mistake me, books are cool and rad and awesome and great, but, Star Trek 6, you know. Enough said. Moving on. Thoughts on Joe Rogan? If that's who I think it is, it's a garbage human being, and if it's not, then I don't know who it is. Holgram says, should all trials be streamed and be as transparent as possible? Yes. One of the biggest defenses we have against misuse and abuse of our court system in real life is that those are as public and as open and as transparent as physically possible. It's one of the reasons why I was hammering earlier the point that court documents can and should be completely a matter of public record. I am 100% unbudging on this. You need trials and courts to be accessible and viewable to the public. That needs to be something that's available. It needs to be something that people have access to. Period. The end. I cannot budge on this point. We did that. We did that. We did that. We did that. We did it. That one doesn't exist. That one doesn't. What the hell is that nonsense? Oh my god. That one doesn't exist. Okay. I'll do this. I can't hearth while I am a frog. That's actually funny. There we go. Whoops. We gotta delete some stuff. Delete. Ah! Hang on, someone added a question. There we go. Rain36 says, tell me your thoughts on the $100 mount. Alright. Let me start by saying what the crap is wrong with the people who are buying that. I'm just going to start with that. I know I try very, 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 very hard not to be judgmental, but you are the problem. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's move on. There's this thing which we've been talking about all day, where life sucks, and therefore people do things that are bad to prevent things from being worse. This is a topic we've discussed in politics and economics and culture and society. It's something that's been coming up constantly today. Something that is a proven way to ensure that an MMO stays alive and continues to put out good and quality content is to have a heavily monetized shop which sells cosmetic crap for overpriced amounts. It is something that FF14 has done extensively, to use a specific example. There is a non-insubstantial degree of thought that one of the ways that companies like World of Warcraft, for example, can actually manage to maintain any degree of independence from its current overhead from Microsoft, put it very, very simply, and all of the garbage that's going on at Microsoft right now and has been for months, is the idea of making sure that they have nice, big, fat pay stacks coming in with relatively low investment. Now, that is a dangerous thing to do, to be very, very clear. If you point to the executives and say, hey, you should leave World of Warcraft alone because look at all this money we made off this Brutosaur, there's a very reasonable chance that what will happen is those executives will say, great, make more Brutosaurs. Can we make more actual content? No, they're not. The people don't pay for actual content. And those executives are extremely stupid. So it kind of depends on the case-by-case basis, because it is possible for us to squeeze some lemonade out of these lemons. It is. It is possible that WoW will go the FF14 and the Guild Wars 2 route of being, an ESO actually for that matter, of being able to actually have real good continued support and content in exchange for having garbage monetization, which people are pouring money, whales it's called, but they are pouring money into it in order to try and keep the game afloat in a way that keeps the executives, off, right? Makes sense? Who knows if that would actually work or not? Because again, the League of Legends problem, which is the perfect way to put that, is a very real problem. And I guess that's my thoughts in a nutshell, Rain36. I cannot believe this, because the mount is something that people are literally paying for a mount. A cosmetic item that costs more than the game itself costs. Do you have any goddamn idea how much incredible and awesome content exists in this game that people can get for a pittance of what they can spend on buying a stupid mount? Anyways, moving on. And I don't want to talk about Thor right now, if that's okay. He's his own thing. Alright, so. What are my thoughts that every day since Occupy Wall Street movement, the corporate media has pushed identity politics as a way to distract people from real issues? So, absolutely. I do think some of that is deliberate. I think a lot of it isn't deliberate. I actually just talked about this. If you can put it on a bumper sticker, it's easier for people to remember, and it's easier for people to spread, right? For it to mimetically spread throughout people's consciousness. Ergo, I absolutely guarantee you that they're going for big, loud, obvious issues in order to try and distract everybody from real issues, because real issues usually involve something like, I don't know, random example, an 8-hour stream where you just sit here and talk until your throat's hoarse. right? It takes a while to actually discuss those kind of things. It takes time and effort and work to really be able to dig into things. But you know what doesn't take time and effort and work to dig into things? Just being like, you know, them other people. Am I right? Hashtag not my Sylvanas. All right, so. Bionic Punk says, do you know anything about the lithium mining controversy in Rio Tinto in Serbia? So I know about lithium mining in general. I know why it's happening. I know why people are shoveling money into it. And I know how damaging it is. What I do not know is the specifics of Rio Tinto. So unfortunately, I can only say no to that one. Loke asks, do I think Trump is winning? No, I already said that. What is if he does, what is my plan going forward? As I've said before, I do not have the power to decide my own fate, as most people don't. So I have no decision to be made on where I live or how I live. So that has nothing to do with me. So I have no plan of action other than to bury myself as far into a hole in a corner as I possibly can. Colgrim says, do I have any data on what countries are watching the stream? Yes. If yes, can you share? No, I don't like to dock that. However, having said that, I bet you guys can guess right now what my number 2 country is. That's right. It's the United Kingdom. But you probably guess my number 3rd country. Yeah, it's actually Germany. Then Canada. And I don't remember the rest off the top of my head. I haven't looked at the graph in quite a while. Let's see here. Have I ever heard the Epic the Musical? No, I have not. That sounds hilarious, though. Magic just says, I'm loving your helicopter. Thank you. I actually kind of wish I could customize it more, but they don't have that many cosmetic options in yet. If only I could spend $90 to... What the hell? Okay, if only I could spend $90 to customize my helicopter more. That would make this game worthwhile to me. Oh, Jesus, Bionic Punk. You know, I don't even... That's my answer to that, is just... you type !Q, and then you type your questions, Android, and then behold, it be done. Ross says, do I think that after Trump, we'll go back to our admittedly bad system where candidates argue policy instead of just attacking each other? I hope so. I know. That sounds really strange to say that way. I would rather have 2 assholes arguing about crap than flinging poo at each other for, like, a year. The current radicalization, I don't have a better word. The current radicalization of politics is something that is dangerous and unacceptable. It is literally dangerous. It is a keg just sitting there waiting for enough tinder and enough spark. And it is something that I find to be deleterious to the entire process of politics as a whole. It is extremely distracting, and it gets everyone further and further into the mentality of the rock star candidates, and further away from people who are doing their freaking job. Let's get all this crap. Get rid of all this crap. There we go. Yeah, we do not need radicalized... we do not need more radicalization in politics. I'm sorry. I don't have a better way to say that. Whatever direction you're going in, it doesn't really matter. That's a matter of policy. That's a matter of opinion. That's a matter of preference. That's a matter of debate. We need to have the ability to make those debates. We have to have the ability to have the venues and capacity and freedoms and rights to be able to have those arguments and vote based on our opinions on those matters, and radicalization takes away from that. Period. Loke says, what are my thoughts on the scientific academia scene with science deniers, people trying to push the narrative that the science community is collapsing? What? I haven't even heard of that. Granted, I'm only like third ring out when it comes to the scientific community, but what? Listen, the Earth is flat. I'm just telling you. I heard it from a friend of mine. He's an uncle at Nintendo. He knows. He's got the insider track that the Earth is actually flat. those. It reminds me, actually, of the TV miniseries V, which I highly recommend the original of if you've never seen it, and how that particular show went way out of its way to show people really trying to vilify the scientists. The cult of science. That's literally wrong. Forgive me. No, just V. V's a great show. I really do recommend you watch it. No joke. Ignore its allegory, ignore its relevance to World War II, ignore its relevance to modern day things. Just watch it on its own right. It's a good show. Yeah, we know how people made the pyramids. There's no thing here. But the reason I bring that up is because of the idea. So, I'm sorry. Science, by definition, cannot be a religion because it is the very opposite in mentality of what a religion is. It is also not mutually exclusive from religion, something that entirely too many people tend to forget. Quite a few venerated scientists were deeply and devoutly religious people who were simply seeking to understand the world around them better. Religion is about already having the answer to some extent or another, and then using that as the lens by which to view reality around you. Science is accepting the fact that you do not understand certain things and are trying to understand them better by further grasping that which is around you. There's no science religion. It doesn't exist. That's nonsense. And forgive me for, you notice I'm kind of prepped on this. It's because I've talked about an episode of Voyager, of all things, in which they posit that that science is a religion. And I during the Trek lore run, when we were going through early Voyager, I went off on that particular episode because of how stupid that particular precept was. It's like, no. Yeah, no, not Distant Origin, although that's a good episode. No, it's, oh God. It's the one where Janeway is like, God, I can't remember it. Oh God, which episode? Hang on. I can cite my sources. I see how this is. Column me to task, which you should do. All right, let's see. Initiations? No. Projections? No. Illusion? No. Tech artist? Two features. Tattoo, cold fire, maneuvers, resistance, but threshold method. No. Death with life signs, investigation, deadlock, innocence, thaw. It must be season 1 then? State of Flux, Heroes and Demons, Cathexis, Trial. Is this it? Emanations? No, that's not it. Oh, where was that one? It has to be season 1 or 2 because Kess was in it. They go to this planet. Kess goes down. Oh, Kess gets attacked by the spirits. And it's like, Janeway must endure a trial to save her. And then there's the asshole committee. The committee of assholes. And they're assholes. And I don't have a better way to say that. That's their characterization, is that they are total dicks. Okay, I guess it could have been season 3. Maybe it was season 3. I forgot Kess was in season 3. Sacred Ground. There it is. Season 3, episode 7. Sacred Ground. I wasn't seeing it. And the asshole committee. They're so dickish about everything. God, great way to represent the religious community by having them be a bunch of old, cantankerous assholes who constantly insult Janeway every single thing they say. Great way to do that episode. God, I hate that frickin' episode. Hi. Don't get me started on Trek. I love Trek to death. That's why I hate it so much. Alright, so. This. Colgrim says, what are the top 3 worst companies in the world? You could skip the one that technically is the means of you earning your upkeep. I mean, Amazon is really horrible. I have absolutely no problem saying that. Google is also really horrible, and I have no problem saying that. But the actual worst companies in the world are companies that I don't know the names of off the top of my head. They are companies that own other companies that own other companies that are probably in businesses like oil and or weapons and or car manufacturing, stuff like that. Hi, Baron. Thank you for the sub. I've got it in the thing. I will go ahead and jot it down later, if you'll forgive me. Whoops. Yeah, there are really, really, really bad companies out in the world. I usually try to deliberately limit myself to companies that are merely as terrible as Tencent, because, you know, Tencent is awful, but it isn't even scraping the surface of how awful companies can really get. Nobody really wants to listen to and hear about just how bad companies can get in the world. Yeah, EA is pathetic compared to Tencent, which is pathetic compared to the really bad stuff. Okay, since I have a moment here, we're gonna go and delete this, put this here, jot over here, nameless, Baron. Just going towards Buckshot Roulette. Which Kirby block do you want that to go towards, Baron? Opposite block 1. Yeah, Tencent are horrible, but they're not literally murdering people that we know of. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, is all I'm trying to say. It's basically 1, 2, or 3. It's the early stuff, like then the Wii era stuff, and then the modern stuff. That's what it boils down to. Besides TikTok, what other social media sites should be banned? I'm not going to do any ratings, Spartan. Sorry. I'm doing very, very mindless stuff while I wait for... Well, while I try to get Q&A stuff going. Yeah, Boeing, who totally didn't assassinate anybody, Boeing. Wink. Wink, I'll expect that bribe. Social media sites that should be banned. I'm not sure I could actually go with any of them, to be honest with you. As much as I think a lot of social media sites can go directly to hell, the fact of the matter is that just nuking them like that is probably not the correct solution there. As much as I don't want to... I hate to not be as radical about it. What are we missing? Oh, I bet you I know what you're missing. Nope. Nope, I'm wrong. Yeah, Twitter needs an overhaul. TikTok needs an overhaul. I think so, Baron? Yes. Yes, I do. So, Kirby Block 1. Facebook exists. Technically. Judo Joker says, why are you literally Hitler? Yeah. Kenix Cow asks, what are your thoughts on 15-minute cities? What is a 15-minute city? Little Billy says, are you still going to be around for Elder Scrolls 6? And is there any hope for it after Starfield? I might not be alive by then. I don't know. It's getting pretty old. But as far as whether or not I think it's going to be any good, no. I guarantee you with near total certainty that Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be terrible. It's one of the biggest reasons why I am looking forward to covering it. Because it's going to be a train wreck. Spartan says, how do you feel about the idea of cooperative business models replacing traditional business models? Also, how do you think we move towards a more worker-oriented economy in reality? So, cooperatives are not a perfect fix, but I have noticed in several cases that cooperative companies tend to and generally be better than, you know, hedge fund companies. So, consider this a kind of a tentative yes, and let's do more of that, please. Putting more and more ability and capacity to have, well, frankly, workers have more rights and more accessibility and ownership over the toil that they do is something that I do absolutely think should happen. Insert Marxism here. I actually think of this from a video game perspective, as you might imagine. Allow me to explain in brief. How many of you have ever enjoyed playing a game that involves essentially doing chores, kind of like what I just did? Now, hang on, bonus question. How many of you have either not done that or looked at someone else doing chores in a video game and said, why are you doing that? You're playing a video game. You're supposed to be having fun. Why are you doing chores in a video game? Because the thing is, the answer is actually very, very simple. It's not really chores, is it? It's not really work, is it, when what you're getting something is tangible out of it, right? You work hard, you accomplish something, you reap rewards and benefits from having done that. Really think about that sequence of events for a second. Now think about your daily job. One of the reasons games like Stardew Valley, for example, I'll use a specific example, tend to nail it so well and resonate with so many people is because there is something satisfying about putting in a hard day's work and mapping things out in order to then reap the rewards and benefits of your hard work. Because we don't get that from our jobs for the most part. Some of us do. Some of us are lucky. By the way, life hack here. If you're having issues with Undercity, talk to Zidormi twice. It doesn't say anything different. Just talk to her twice. As in, take her option twice. That'll put you in the correct timeline to be back here. See? Yeah, Power Wash Simulator. And at the end, you've got a nice, clean thing. It even gives you a shot where it shows you the time lapse and everything. It's great, right? You accomplish something. Workers like to feel like we're doing something. And we like to feel like we're relevant. And we like to have some kind of tangible benefit for having done something. This shouldn't be a radical thing to say. But what you're asking is how do we actually make that happen? And that's a much trickier thing. Oh yeah, we should do that. I don't feel like tanking. That's why dailies exist. I'm just doing some dailies right now. What we're going to need is more and more shuffling, more and more shifting of policies, of regulations, and of finances. We're going to have more and more things happen like the FCA. We're going to have more and more things happen like the 40-hour work week. We're going to have more regulation done in order to try and rein in some of the worst and most egregious impulses of avarice and greed that are pushed out by larger companies who are just trying to squeeze as much money out of a situation with as little input as possible. I don't like thinking of things from an us versus them perspective, but this is about as clear-cut of an us versus them as it gets. Yeah, we need a 4-day work week with the same pay that we're currently having. We need greater union protections. We need greater unionization in general. Hell, what we actually need is unions to be outdated to the point where we just have those kind of protections and we don't actually need to rely on something like a union to hope that we can get the protections that we should have already. You know? I guess that's my answer to you. Let's see. Let me catch up here. Questions? Am I aware of the American Bund Rally of 1939? I am not. That does not sound familiar. I'm afraid I got nothing on that. I don't live in the US. Our tax is actually high. No. The United States has one of the lowest rates of taxation of the major developed economies in the world. I am just going to wait here because I'm not the tank. Sub-Zero asks a qualifying question. So I mentioned that I want EU5 to bury EU4. And they say, why do I want EU4 to be buried? Allow me to clarify that sentence a little bit. What I really want is I want EU5 to be... I don't want Sims 4 again. Might be the easiest way to phrase that. Sims 4, those of you who don't actually remember that, is a game that is worse than Sims 3 in pretty much every demonstrable way, right? And they ripped functionality and gameplay and features out of the game, replaced it with trash, and then have very, very slowly been adding back in anything worth a damn in order to try and make up for that. Happy Polemic Day, dude, my guy.
Spread.
Back off a little bit here. So, what I want is for EU5 to bury EU4 by virtue of being a sufficiently improved version of the game, to the point where it's not a massive fall, right? Like, it's not just so much worse than EU4 in every way. EU4 can and always probably should have some place in existing, especially in the modding scene. But if EU5 doesn't nail it on landing, well, then that sucks. So I'm finally done with this. Come on. Let's see. Hexley says, do I think people understand that the American government doesn't care at all about Palestine, except that it's an election cycle, and it can hurt it politically? I imagine most Americans don't understand that. Palestine doesn't offer anything of value other than a way of the Middle East, and that's why they don't want anything against Israel, because Israel, the eyes, the ears, and the me, and the only trustworthy force of American troops don't end up in the Middle East again. Yeah. Nothing else to add to that. Warp Course says, speaking of age limits, which just bounce around here on topics. What do you think about old people being allowed to drive when they probably shouldn't because they passed a test half a century or so and were never retested? I'm extraordinarily against that, and not just because of South Park. Points if you get it. But I mentioned earlier my grandfather on my dad's side, who actually still had a license to drive even though he was not only legally blind, and I mean like really blind, way worse than I am, but was also having issues with like physically moving his arms enough to turn the wheel enough in order to be able to drive. Now, thankfully, in this specific case, my grandfather was smart enough to not drive because he recognized that he was not in a state to drive. But he had a driver's license and he had the legal right to drive. So, you get the point here? This isn't quite like the voting issue earlier. People who are driving are operating a very large and very deadly piece of equipment. And that needs to be something that we need to test for to make sure that they're still competent and capable of doing that properly. Rather than just hitting a rubber stamp and saying, yep, you're still you. Here's your new card. Boop. I'm sorry. No. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, driving isn't like voting. Driving is not a right. Driving is a privilege. It's a privilege you can and should have the right to earn. But, like, if you are physically incapable of driving because of medical or health issues, then, dude. I don't... Anyways. When did I last take my drink? Did I see where Russia has to find Google? 10, 20, I think it was decillion dollars? How long did it take me to stop laughing? So, yes, I have seen that. And the first reaction I had was that I thought it was an onion thing, you know, or one of the other, like hard drives, another one of those parody sites. No, they they really are just trying to asset seize on that particular level. Good luck. I do not, Spartan. But thank you. It was decillion. I was right. Yay. Okay, what's my opinion on California Proposition 36? Well, hang on to Google. Proposition 36. So what 36 does specifically is it turns theft of items worth $950 or less from a misdemeanor into a felony, assuming the person has 2 or more past convictions for certain theft crimes. What's strange about that is the 3 strikes rule should probably already apply there. I'm surprised that it doesn't. The sentence will be up to 3 years in county jail or state prison. So, yeah, for those of you not aware, there's misdemeanors, then there's felonies. And then there's actually gradients of felonies. Felonies have a scale from 1 to 10, or 10 to 1, I forget which one it is. And, shrug. So if you're a repeat offender, it is the kind of thing. It also lengthens sentences for theft of property by up to 3 years. And it requires the selling of fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, or methamphetamine to be, sentencing to require additional length of time spent in prison upon said sentencing. It also requires those to be settled in a prison specifically. And for those of you not aware, prison and jail are actually separate things, as weird as that probably sounds. Let's go buzz Stormwind really quick. I don't know. As weird as that sounds, Anybody who knows me knows that I am not a big fan of punishment as a means of enforcement. I don't mean like give them cookies and candies if they murder someone, which is what people like to strawman about. I just mean that going after people more harshly, being hard on crime, is almost universally something that doesn't work. However, yeah, prison is almost always better than jail, by the way. That's very, very normal. However, I don't know. Yeah, that feels like a good and bad situation, because on the one hand, trying to go after more repeat offenders for certain types of categories of misdemeanors in order to then classify it as a felony, which is effectively the three strikes law, and then qualifying that under jails or prisons, that's not great because jail sucks. I don't know. Like, that is an iffy enough thing, and I feel uneasy giving a snap judgment on that, having only read it like 5 minutes ago. If you put a gun to my head and force me to not do any more research, I'd probably lean towards a no on that. But that's because you put a gun to my head, which means you're now going to prison for an additional 3 years. Like, yeah, some of that, again, it's like Blade Turtle mentioned. Some of that, it's like, yeah, okay. And then some of that's like, The thing I like to do when I'm doing this is I like to leave them in places that people can find easier, so they have an easier time doing the other daily. Fun fact, we actually leave the stink bombs that the other players, the Alliance players, clean up. Bonapunk says, how would I systemically get rid of easy gun ownership in the US so there's no abrupt and violent reaction to it? I don't think I have 30 minutes to sit here and discuss a lengthy plan of action, which is what that would actually involve. Because what you want to do is you want to slowly discourage gun ownership, especially new gun ownership. You want to, first of all, you want to get harsher about gun licensing laws to reduce the amount of guns that are getting in hands of people in general. Then you want to probably go ahead and try to reduce increase the requirements for maintaining your gun license and the costs of having that and being able to go to the yard and all that fun stuff. So basically making it a little bit harder over time to continue to own a gun. And whoops, I didn't mean to leave group. I'm stupid. Oh, whatever. But also then make it harder to then procure a gun to begin with. Yeah, make it exactly about it, but make it harder and harder over time to own a gun and slowly boil the frog. Obviously, some people are never going to give up their guns. That's a thing. People are like, you'll have my gun when you take it from my cold, dead hands. But those people will eventually die of old age. You're on Rex. So, like, that's not as big of an issue as it sounds like from the long-term perspective, which we're looking at here. Also, if I could be so bold, getting rid of concealed carry permits is probably a good move, like a starting move on that. Concealed carry is ridiculous on several levels. I'm just going to say that. See you around, Bella. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. Should cops have protection from lawsuits? No. Sorry. I'm sorry. I know I came down on that harshly, but I should probably be very clear that as much as I think our legal system is an absolute nightmare, it could be worse. And making any given body within giving legal immunity to legal action against them is not something I'm in favor of. Period. I just talked about this with regard to presidential immunity. I don't think there should be any given polity or entity that is above the law. Oh, of course that will, dude McDuck. You're never going to get rid of it permanently. That's not how that works. That's not the goal here, is it? We are not looking for perfection. We're looking for better. Anyways, so let's see here. Have you seen how to train your dragon movies? Actually, I have not. I never really got around to it, and so I never actually had time to do into it. And well, that statement, I suppose. Where's the place with good music? Let's go here. Almanac. Do I think that the U.S. will ever recognize Puerto Rico as a state? or just rip off the Band-Aid and allow it to be an independent country. Becoming a state is harder to do than it sounds, and as weird as it's going to sound, if it was going to happen, it probably already would have. The catch is, letting go of territory is something that almost no polity is willing to do under most circumstances. I mean, ask Britain about that sometime. So I don't think it's what I would call exceptionally likely that we're ever going to see a circumstance whereby, I should have just flown from there, whereby Puerto Rico ever even changes its status one way or the other, either becomes its own independent country or becomes an official ratified state. Yeah, DC has a better shot than Puerto Rico, and that's never happening either. This way. Spartan says, do I think a parliamentary system is better than what we have now? I'm going to be honest, I don't know what you mean would be different by that, like what the variance would be. So I don't know, but that was a Spartan question, so you can probably answer that. Kitten Fence says, do you prefer to vote by mail or in person? I prefer in person when available, because I'm a weird kind of person who likes going out and seeing people, interacting with people. But I also, you know, don't have anything else to add to that, I guess. End statement. If Trump loses, do you think the future of the Republican... What do I think the future of the Republican Party will look like half a year later? I mean, Vance is certainly trying to make moves, and Cruz was. So one of those two would probably be the kind of person who would end up, you know, overtaking in terms of party leadership. Also, Trump might die of old age or health complications. You never know. Could also have the same thing happen. Let's see here. Triss or Yennefer? I mean, Yennefer, obviously. Yeah, it's not going to be DeSantis. He's dreaming. Green or purple? Purple! Purple. Czar says, what's your favorite party in an RPG, both Western and JRPG? FF6. I don't even have to think about that. FF6 has a few nothing burger characters, such as Umaro and Gogo. But every character there is, at the very least, good. I love the FF6 cast to death. Easy answer. Rain36 asks, what's my favorite philosopher and or favorite branch of philosophy? Okay. When I took philosophy classes back in school, a lot of people spoke a lot of nonsense and drivel. And I actually, for the longest time, mentally associated philosophy with stuck up your own ass and thinking that you love the smell of your own farts. And I didn't really get past that until much, much, much more recently, when I found out that, as usual, it's a nice big gradient of different types of thoughts and reasons. So, having said that, I can't actually name any philosophers or philosophy groups that I actually particularly enjoy, even though I probably adhere to several of them, because I never really learned any of that stuff. Let's see here. Lord Atlantean says, are you still going through with a move to another country? I have no idea. If so, why? Because my brother-in-law might be getting a job in another country, so we go with him. Oh, excuse me. And I can't afford to live on my own, so... let's see here. Mortal asks, what's your go-to Mass Effect 1 party? Well, if I'm just doing a random replay, then it's probably going to be... Do I get 3 party members or 2? I actually can't remember. Because they're so irrelevant in Mass Effect 1. But let's assume it's 2. So I'll go with... Let's see. Rex is the obvious one, because he's the best character in Mass Effect 1. And... I think I will go with Liara as my second pick. But Liara, Tali, and Garrus kind of battle it out for my second slot. Rex has the guaranteed first slot, though, in addition to being my brother. The fact of the matter is that he is the best character in Mass Effect 1. Don't mind me. And I'm out. Whee! Let's see here. Thoughts on copyright law and how to fix it? Gee, why don't you just ask me my opinion of the entire Star Wars franchise while you're at it? Okay, well... Look, Garrus is cool, but, like, Liara is my one true love. I mean, she doesn't exist. She doesn't exist. Caden did have an ass. That's true. Damn it, Mr. Red. Let me come back to that, Ross, assuming we have time, because I'm kind of racing the clock now. I had no idea you guys were going to ask me this many questions. Love Balter says, how much influence does Russia have on American politics? I have no idea. There's a lot of noise about... You should be ashamed of yourself. There's a lot of noise about exactly how much influence Russia has had on influencing the United States elections. We do have some actual, tangible, and proven evidences of attempts at election interference. What we do not know is how much influence those attempts at interference had. So, while we know that the Russian government has made multiple attempts to interfere with our elections here, we do not know if they've ever accomplished anything. Loke says, what's your favorite line in the Clone Wars? The 2.5 minutes of silence at the end of the final episode of Season 7. I know that's kind of cheating, but man, I stand by it. Why is Joe Rogan a garbage human being? God, I don't want to get into that. Pass. Pass. Hang on. Joe Rogan. Let me make sure I'm talking about the right guy. Hang on. Okay, that's not who I was thinking of. So I have no idea who Joe Rogan is, and that's my answer to that question. Not who I was thinking of. I was thinking of someone else. Blake Duval says, what's the best film or television adaptation? Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings trilogy did a really great job of telling the story of Lord of the Rings in a way that was actually entertaining, as opposed to being the books. Yes, I said it. No, I don't care. Runner-up answer would be Jurassic Park. Moving on. Let's see here. Kennex Cow says, what's my opinion on the PS5 Pro debacle? I think Sony is trying very, very, very hard to double down on their current strategy, and I hope it doesn't work out for them. Let's see here. Asdamine says, have you ever followed competitive StarCraft? No. Are you aware of the recent balance patch controversy? Consequently, no. Sean says, in the past, you do not get along with your biological family. A good portion of the Mass Effect 2 squad mates also don't get along with the biological family. Does this resonate with you? I'm going to be honest, that never actually occurred to me until you said it just now. However, I'll go with a yes, now that I am noticing it and now that it's there. I will admit I do tend to enjoy fiction that tends to lean into the concepts of found family. Final Fantasy XIV would be an excellent example of that. Hell, so would the game I'm playing right now. Let's see here. If Kamala loses... All this presidential stuff. If Kamala loses, do you think the Democratic Party will be too afraid to run a female candidate again for the foreseeable future? Yes. In other words, do you think they will draw the wrong conclusion? And again, I say... yes, 100%. I would not be surprised at all. Move this up here, move this down here. I mean, the Democratic Party is a bunch of spineless wimps, so that would make sense. Venter says, what's going on with Dragon Age 4? And if you do know, can you give me a quick rundown of your thoughts and opinions? Okay. So, right now, Dragon Age 4 is not funded. And we're also, even if it was somehow magically funded right now, we would not be playing it for a few months until the patches and balances and all the changes go into effect, because I never want to have another Baldur's Gate 3 or Cyberpunk situation ever again. So I suppose that's all I have to add to that. I've been staying extraordinarily blind about the game. However, several people asked why I'm so negatively pushed towards it. And that's because it was a rush development to meet an artificial deadline by people who had been doing... We've seen this a dozen times. Hey, we've started developing this thing. Oh, hang on. We've had development issues, and then they restart development, and then they restart development, and then they restart development. 3 times that we know of, by the way. Minimum. 3 times that they know of. Completely restart development. And people left the company, and then people joined the company, and then people left the company again. And it's been nothing but a mess and a noise, and then they finally started actual no-really development last year, and now the game's coming out. Of course I think it's going to be bad. I look forward to being wrong. Nirazaz says, if Kamala wins... Oh, my God. If Kamala wins, do you think the Republican Party's going to double down on its policy or start breaking apart? Yes. Cookie Dude says, can you explain the meaning behind the Lorerunner icon? Okay. So, the idea is, it's a combination of several mathematical principles that I find appealing, which include the numbers 33 and the number 7, both of which are numbers I happen to be very fond of. In fact, if I could, I would have made it 333, because I love 333 as a number, because I'm a weirdo. It also just kind of is supposed to mean, me. as a thing. I'm being invited to a group for some reason. What's up, Spartan? What do you want? What do you want? But otherwise, it doesn't have any like specific connotations or meaning. It's just a thing that identifies as me, or rather, I identify as it. However you want to think of that. Okay. Let's see here. Zion Druid says, are there any city locations you'd love to visit? Dozens, if not hundreds. I would love to circle the globe and visit places and try out things. I never will. Let's see. Cookie Dude asks, what do you think needs to happen to set up another American Civil War? A complete breakdown of the United States military. You have to understand, the Civil War, the United States Civil War, did not just happen overnight. It built up and built up and built up over years. It was, and I know what you think, that's what's happening now. No, you do not understand. To be blunt, if you've never studied that incident, then you do not understand what I'm talking about. There was a long, long, long climb up to that conflict. And that's less likely to happen in general just because of the nature of our more interconnected society. But also because there just isn't going to be that kind of division in the military anymore, not like it used to be. Back in the day, states' rights and federation rights were still something that was being debated, were still something that was a matter of opinion, and were still things that were being laid down. There was actually a lot less federal power back in the day, which was actually one of the salient points. A lot of people were pro-state as a consequence of that. And, of course, slavery and economics and all sorts of other fun stuff. And, yeah, also many very, very terrible presidencies led up to that as well. It was ridiculous. It was nonsense. Of course it was going to happen. It's the kind of thing anybody could and did predict from miles away. Let's see here. Bionic Punk asks, what are the thoughts on Nintendo suing Palworld and it having connections with Sony? Who has connections with Sony? I assume you mean Palworld. Regardless of that... Oh, jeez. Regardless of that... I don't know is the legitimate answer to that. So, Palworld can go directly to hell. The developers are kind of trash. And essentially grifters. They're scammers. And I've never been a fan of them before Palworld even existed. It's actually why I vetoed Palworld. Screw them. But, yeah, exactly true, Legible. We're a lot more interconnected than we ever have been. It's kind of a consequence of that kind of fast communication thing. So, that being said, what Nintendo is actually going after them for, and how that legal battle develops, is scary. And that's the honest truth there. I don't like the idea that Nintendo is essentially trying to establish some sort of precedence with regards to the things they are not copyright, excuse me, they're trademarking. They're trademarking. That's a lot scarier than a typical copyright suit. So this could be extremely bad. Nintendo has been a big pusher of the idea that they're terrible, awful dinosaurs who want to make the world the worst place for everybody. So it wouldn't really surprise me all that much if this was another step by their lawyers to try and make the world a worse place for everybody. Bionic says, what do you think the reason some YouTube Trekkies stopped collaborating with you? I honestly just assumed that I'm so pathetic and irrelevant that they just had better things to do. That's what I've always assumed there. Warpcore says, why is the Prime Directive so great? Because I get to watch people die and not feel bad about it. Delete all these. Venture says, is there anybody alive or dead I could punch? I do like punching people. But, you know, the biggest person, I think, would probably be someone who's actually dead. And I suddenly can't think of his name. Hang on. I cannot think of his freaking name. He just died this year. Kissinger. I would love to just slug Henry Kissinger right in his stupid goddamn gob. Also Ronald Reagan. Also Margaret Thatcher. There's my three. Boom. There's probably worse people in many ways, in many places, but, you know, I would derive a lot of personal satisfaction from slugging those people right in their goddamn faces. Alright, moving on. Bionic Punk says, do I think governments of the world should legally protect the history of the internet? Yes. So that stuff that occurred with Wayback Machine never occurred again. Yes, again. I mean, honestly. Ganesh says, do you think Twitter can recover to its former status, or will its replacement solidify as a valid competition? I kind of hope Blue Sky just completely swallows Twitter, but the only way that'll ever really happen is if governmental bodies actually start using Blue Sky as a regular thing. Yeah, I just noticed all 3 people I just listed are dead. Not on purpose, it's just funny. Let's see here. Have a view. That's not a good view. I get you a better view than that. Hang on. Let's get a little bit more out of the fog here. A little bit more out of the fog. A little bit more out. There we go. Lord Harriman says, do you think it was a good idea in terms of winning the election for Harris to embrace Liz Cheney and move to the right in terms of issues? In terms of just straight up winning, yeah, that was probably the correct call. Just like her using irritating practices in terms of how she operates her election campaign, hammering, you know, sloganable stuff, constantly hammering the Trump team. There's also been this overall approach towards being positive instead of negative, and it's all nonsense. But it was probably the correct decision. You know, pragmatically. Little One says, if the idea of automation through AIs or otherwise is inevitable in the workforce in the future, should the means of earning income change to address that? I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. I am not sure what we could do to ensure people are still capable of, you know, surviving and existing and thriving, and being able to have opportunities to be able to go do extra things in order to be able to expand their lives and pursue hobbies or careers or otherwise ambitions. The easy answer would be Star Trek, but Star Trek's own writers have never thought about the economy of their setting, so I've probably put more thought into that economy than they have. And even I would look at that and like, So I suppose the easiest answer there would be making it so that we have something like a universal basic income along with many, many other protection agencies in order to make sure that everyone continues to have a living wage, and then people who decide to seek out things with regards to either service or oversight, those are the people who would probably be the ones who would then gain extra income in order to be able to do extra stuff. As I mentioned before, there's no such thing as a system that can run itself. You need some kind of oversight. You need maintenance. You need repair people. You need people who know how to fix things. You need people who know how to build things. No amount of automation is going to replace that. That's been true forever, and that will continue to be true forever. So that's the most likely answer to that, I suppose. Bionic Punk says, do I think hydrogen-powered cars will be a better alternative to metal battery-powered cars? I have no idea. I would love for us to get away from, you know, like you've played that phase of Alpha Centauri, right? Where you're generating so much pollution that the planet's trying to kill you every turn. We need to get out of that. We need to get past that phase. But I don't know if hydrogen is the correct option. I haven't looked into it. Spartan says, Google this thing. Okay, sure, hang on. I am, as ever, your dancing monkey. Let me do it in a private window, just in case. Oh my god, porn everywhere! So I actually am familiar with this. I didn't know the name. I don't remember your earlier question, but I do remember... so I guess your earlier question was just, are you aware of this rally? In which case the answer is yes. Yes would be the answer to that question. Yeah, a lot of people forget the Nazi Party actually was a political party in the United States for a while there. Anyways. No, not jokingly. Not like, so, you're just... No, I mean like they were actual political party, a registered political party. Let's see here. Bionic Punk says, do I think there'll be another storming of the Capitol if Trump doesn't win this time? Yes. Bonnick says, do you think the U.S. prison system needs to change? Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Lord Atlantean says, why are you against guns? Okay. Sure. So the easiest way to answer that is because I have a niece that goes to school on a regular basis. That's the easiest way to answer that question. If I have to go more in depth into that, well, I'm not a big fan of the fact that by every metric that I myself have looked into, because I have actually looked into this, most countries that are much harder about gun regulation and controls than we are have less gun crime, even when adjusted for population and percentages as well as per region. In other words, there is a reasonable proposal that could be stated, and it is a proposal, not a statement of fact, that could be stated that, or that could be posited, excuse me, stating that increased control of guns and reduced ownership of guns could be the kind of thing that actually reduces gun violence and gun violent crimes. I consider that to be a good thing, and therefore worthwhile of a thing to do. I also have another layer to that, which is the third thing. So the first thing is kind of the more emotional thing. The second thing is kind of the more logical thing. The third thing is the weird one. I don't fully understand why some people are so pro-gun as to be beyond the point of reason. What I mean by that is because I've encountered people in real life in person who are unwilling to even entertain any discussion on the matter. They absolutely insist that they always must have their guns, period, the end, really. I have never heard anyone give any kind of reasonable or tangible debate or purpose behind why. Like, not even something like, I like to go down to the range. Just, no, you're not taking my gun, screw you. And that's pretty much the extent of the debate. Let's see here. Next question. Mr. Ed says, people have told me they think if Trump wins, Vance will be a scapegoat for that loss. What? People have told me they think if Trump wins, Vance will be a scapegoat for that loss. What? But see, abortions, sorry to derail a little bit. Abortions, sure. Like there are people who, I've heard plenty of arguments on the abortion issue. I've heard plenty of logic and reasoning and thought on that point. So I get that, right? The gun thing, not as much. So let's see here. So if Trump loses, Vance will be the scapegoat for that loss. Probably, at least for him personally. And I can say that definitively because Trump is one of the most textbook examples. I don't mean this as an insult, by the way. I mean this as a statement of fact. Trump himself is one of the most textbook examples of a narcissist I've ever seen in recent memory. And he is absolutely the kind of person who will try to seek anything out whatsoever other than himself in order to blame for what happened, because, as I have pointed out earlier, he has a tangible, proven history of refusing to accept responsibility or consequences for his actions, as I mentioned when I talked about all the court stuff I dragged through. Let's see here. Have I ever been recognized in public by a fan? No, thank God. Bizarre says, what's your favorite romance in a game? Honestly, Morrigan is still probably one of my favorite romances in gaming. But I would be lying if I said Locke and Celeste is not towards the top of that list. I'm sure there's others, but like those. Also, I'm also going to give a ref point to Geralt and Yennefer over on Witcher 3. Maxim and Salon, well, I don't know. I mean, I feel like Tia was the one. No, okay, I'm joking right here. Let's see. Do I watch political debates? I try not to. I don't have a lot of free time to begin with, and I have other things to do with it. However, in order to be able to make an informed opinion about certain things, I do make it a point to actually watch those kind of things. Let me give you a specific example of this. There's this really big problem. I'm sorry, Czar. There's this really big problem where someone will take something essentially completely out of context and say, and use it to make a point. And that irritates the ever-living snot out of me, right? There's a quote you've probably heard about Trump who says, "You're all rich as hell, and we're going to give you tax cuts." You may or may not be aware of that particular thing. And it's always overly edited, right? It's always hyper-edited to the point where you just hear, "You're all rich as hell, and I'm going to give you tax cuts," and that's all he says. And that bothered me. So I decided to go digging into that and try to figure out exactly what was actually being said at that moment, which I did successfully find and was able to actually watch the actual footage itself and determine that it was actually worse than it sounded. But that's the point, isn't it? So, yeah, context is key, but that kind of a thing is something that has been all over the place this election in particular. Maybe I'm just noticing it more this time around. I don't know. Because there's a whole lot of times where someone will be like, "Oh man, the other side said this." And I'm like, okay, well, I go and pull up because I don't want some blurb on Twitter. I want to see what actually happened. So in those circumstances, I will watch a portion of an actual debate to see what actually happened to be able to make my own opinion on the matter. That's about the only exception to that. Let's see here. What am I? Loke says, "What are your thoughts on the Star Citizen situation with the monetary system and the whole Squadron 42?" So I haven't looked into it in over a year and a half, maybe 2 years at this point. However, I can say definitively that Star Citizen is either the biggest goddamn scam in gaming, or is people who are so legendarily terrible at managing their resources that they would actually challenge Duke Nukem Forever's team. That's impressive. Kenexcow says, "Besides WoW, what's your favorite word and sorcery game?" I assume that means sword and sorcery game. I guess FF14 would be the easy answer. One of the Final Fantasies in general, maybe Chrono Trigger, maybe Paper Mario 2. I don't know, one of those. I enjoy quite a few of them. One moment, please. Okay, let's see here. What's my favorite seasonal event in a game? I like Brewfest in WoW, which is probably my answer for WoW. I also like Christmas in WoW. The decorations are nice and the events are nice in both cases, so I'm probably going to go with both of those answers. If I had my choice of working in a different field that was completely unrelated to gaming or streaming, what would I choose? I suppose the only possible answer to that would be government. Because obviously I can't make games, you know, duh. So, yeah, we're probably going to cut off questions soon. Like, I can hear them making dinner right now. In fact, we're just going to shut down the bot right now. Oop, bot's shut down. So let's scroll down a little bit here. Mortal says, "Do you think that if you open up the gates to the police being sued too open, then you can have people getting away with violent crimes too easily because there's some trumped-up technical accusation charges?" Yes, I do absolutely think that that is a possibility, and is essentially, for lack of a better way to put it, the cost in question for giving the citizens the tools and availability to be able to defend themselves against the police. Mortal says, "The UK recently made a ruling that if you're overweight and unemployed, you'll be legally given Ozempic? I don't know what that is. Until you are fit." Let's not give our citizens mandated drugs. Can we do that? It's a weight loss drug. Does it work? Because I've never heard anything about any weight loss drug that actually works. And I've looked. Either way, no. And that's going to be my answer to that. Just, no. Disco says, "What's your opinion on the language around homelessness? How do you feel about euphemisms like unhoused or rough sleepers?" They're homeless. There's no need to whitewash this. Speaking as an ex-homeless person, there's no need to try and say it as anything other than this. It is an ugly, dirty, terrible thing. It is something that needs to be fixed. It's people that need to be helped. Jesus Christ. Love Baltazar says, "How do you think the Ukraine-Russia war is going to end?" Every time I've been asked about that war, I have been wrong. And that's my answer to that. I have never been able to successfully predict anything about that conflict. Not one thing. I have no idea. Bionic Punk says, do you have contingency plans for the total collapse of human civilization due to wars or environmental factors that do not involve using the suicide thing? Nope. See, suicide is kind of the ultimate choice in those kind of situations. Oh, sure, you could survive, but like, why bother, right? At that point. That's why I have my own personal guillotine in the back room there. Kennex Cow asks, Kirk or Picard? If you put a gun to my head, I would say Picard overall, but I like both. Disco Inferno says, does the battery in Europe smoker alarm need changing? No, thank God. Czar says, should in-game economies be more reflective of the real world? Prices for weapons going from hundreds of thousands of gold or silver coins to a unique weapon for thousands of silver, but also lowering the amount of how much players receive. Monetary wars to show you gamified. I don't know. I don't understand your question, Czar. I'm sorry. I legitimately don't get this one. So I'm going to come back to that. Venture says, if you could go back in time and rewrite the Bill of Rights, would I? Yes. Would I try to future-proof it? No. Banapunk says, you know what's better than asking questions? Watching Transformers 1! Have you heard of TF1 fan on Twitter? I have heard of, but not actually seen, no. Why are U.S. houses made of plywood that's easily destroyed by tornadoes? It's cheaper. What about... okay, so Dark Day says, what about responsible gunners? If I decide to own 100 guns, why do you need 100 guns? What's it to you that I have that many? Just as a hypothetical. Okay, that's valid. As long as you never actually plan to use any of those guns on anything other than a range, go for it. Are you going to carry those around with you? Are you going to have one right next to your desk? Like, there's some problems there, dude. Little One says, what was it about the devs of Palworld that was so egregious to have the game vetoed? Oh, that's easy. They are scammers. Let's be very, very clear about that. So the way this works is, and this is proven track record, what they do is they do some asset flipping and a little bit of code to make what is effectively a prototype of a game, right? Like a beta, or even in some cases an alpha. So they make an idea for a game, and it's like, here's your idea for the game. And they put it up in early access or whatever. And then people buy it, and they take the money from that, and they use that to work on the next game. So now they're working on the next game, which they have completely abandoned the first game that people have purchased. And then the next game, they do the same thing. And then the next game, they do the same thing. They're already 2 games past Palworld as of this moment in time. Although that might finally stop thanks to the lawsuit. They're scam artists. End statement. Spartan wants me to try. Why do I keep not being able to see you? Spartan. I don't know. Are guns any different? That's a good question. Forgive me for being a little hostile here, but I can't kill people with this. All right. How do I see Spartan? Like, why do I not have access to where Spartan is? No, I'll come back to it, Ross. Hang on. I mean, I guess I could if I really, really worked at it. Like, if I really tried, I probably could make it happen. I don't know. If a kid walks into a school with a plushie, it's not a cause for alarm, concern, and terror. If a kid walks into a school with a gun, that's a problem. I'm going to go back to that because that is my core issue with guns. If you want to have your hobby where you go and grab your guns, that's fine. I don't really care, to be honest with you. I don't understand it, but then again, I don't understand alcohol either. Or smoking, or a dozen other things. That's fine. You do you. I still absolutely and 100% think that we need stronger gun control laws overall in this country, because the level of gun violence we have in this country is absolutely unacceptable. And that's the core reasoning there. I'm sorry, there's no budging on this point for me. I do apologize for that. Was actually the last question, so hang on. So, thoughts on copyright law and how to fix it. So I've actually talked out a lot of hypothetical ways to fix copyright law. The problem is, it's really easy to actually have a new law that fixes copyright law. I know that sounds strange, but it's true. Implementation, that's tricky because corporates and lobbying and all that fun stuff. But if you... What matters is what you care about, which I know sounds like a weird way to put that, but let me try to phrase this a little bit differently. Would you, if you care most about trying to ensure that people retain ownership of the things that they make, then copyright law needs to be restructured a little bit to slant it that way. If you need to, or if you want to rearrange copyright law to make it so that it adds more to the overall vat of general creativity in the particular field you're working in, then it needs to be restructured like that. And so forth and so on. It depends on what your idea is. It depends on what your policy is, right? In my case, I do think that what should happen, pure opinion, pure policy, is that you should have the rights and ownership to your particular thing for X amount of time. I don't know how long. I haven't done the math. But if you have ownership, you've made Star Wars, congrats. You now have ownership of Star Wars for X period of time. And all of that goes straight into you and yours. Hey, I think I see you now. Congratulations. And then after X amount of time, that just becomes open, right? The trademark expires. There is no extension. You've made your money. You've made your fortune, and or not. And that's the end of that, right? Now it's available and free for anybody to do whatever they want with it in whatever directions. I saw you on Approach. I literally saw you over there, Spartan. I do think there's some other provisos that need to be added on top of that. I think making things that are officially made by such and such should be like a standardized thing. I think that there should be additional layers of protection when it comes to what kind of transformative rights can be done on top of that. Blah, 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 blah. Yes, I've answered all your questions, Magic Electrician, at least all the ones that were in the queue. But that's my overall thrust of the direction I would go in. I want you to have access to your thing for a while, and then I want your thing to be opened up to the public for other people to then be able to take it and do new things with it. That's my thoughts. But that is something that I'm not concrete on because, you know, that's just a policy. That's an opinion thing. Sure. It's just standing right on my face here. That's actually funny. Oh my god, it's hideous! Oh god, it's so disgusting. Ugh. Ugh. Okay, I'm okay. Thank you, Jonathan Freeloader, for the sub. Very much and appreciate as always. If you want to put the towards up to 3 things, please let me know. Czar says, should weapons cost so high like in every video game, or should they have been lower the prices like real life and Middle Ages and Renaissance, but players also gain lower amount of money to not break the in-game economy and become too rich? Or should they keep it this way because players like big numbers? Okay, I get you. So obviously I think that big numbers go boom is whatever, and it's just psychologically manipulative. We actually talked about that during FF16 because FF16 practices that quite a bit. But I don't think either of those things actually needs to happen, as weird as that sounds. I think it's completely fine for the overwhelming majority of games to just have an in-game economy that's as designed as it's getting for the itemization to be as good as it's getting. Having said that, I would absolutely appreciate something more where the player economy is designed around the concept of the lore economy. Elder Scrolls, or not Elder Scrolls, sorry. Forgotten Realms completely fumbles this, right? It's funny you say that. This is not a transmog, by the way. This is my actual gear. This is literally what I have equipped right now. I have no transmogs on whatsoever. See, there's my 5-piece. Anyways, because in Forgotten Realms, one individual player can sell like a +2 ring for as much money as an entire town makes in a year. And that's ridiculous. And so there, you talk about the 1%ers, holy crap. So that's the kind of thing that needs to be put a little bit more thought into instead of just doing whatever. But that's more of a lore and gameplay and story integration thing. And that's kind of a case-by-case thing. Now, unfortunately, Spartan has just left, so I cannot look at his transmog now. Wait. This is his transmog. It's invisible. It's invisible. come here so I can look at your transmog and then I can cut off the stream. Alright. Oh, it's hideous! Sorry. Oops. I like the combo of the axe and the shoulders. And I think that the helmet and the belt go really well together. Those are literally part of the same set, so that makes perfect sense. I'm not a huge fan of the gloves. The gloves don't quite work. They don't have the right gray to complement the shoulders, and they don't have the right anything else to complement the shirt. They need to either have that like kind of dark brownish reddish color, or they need to be something closer to silver or blue to complement that. The contrast is fine. It doesn't really bother me that much, but I think the contrast should be a little bit more like something else needs a contrast. I think the gloves would be a perfect time to pull that in. If you get something blue and or silver on the gloves, I think that would pop. That's my thoughts in a nutshell. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Experiment. I'm glad you enjoy it. Oh yes, and I'm going to be playing Dragon Age 4 whenever it's funded, Sass Effect, and probably not for a few months either way, because I want to make sure that the game is properly patched before we actually get there. Thank you very much, silly idea. I'll put that towards off. Mortis something. Off, Mortis, Ghost, Prototype, and the Kingdom Hearts block. Okay. I hope you've had a good Polemic day. Tomorrow we'll be continuing Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. And I will see you tomorrow.